It is the final weekend for PCS2 APAC. It's down to the last 8 games remaining. Will Divine Esports run away as winners currently with a 27-point lead, or will the teams just behind them hunt them down and take the crown? Welcome for this final weekend, Edge, as we come on in 8 games to go to sort of set the tone. Welcome on, everybody. A 27-point lead for Divine Esports. That's the question. Will they be able to hold top spot?
Yeah, and realistically, if it's anything to go off, having your NA PCS just finish with Sonics with a nice lead as well, just carrying it forwards and dominating. So it'll be interesting to see if Divine can follow through and can get that W.
Yeah, they of course have got a lot of Pick'em Challenge votes. They are one of the favorites in that regard. Now, of course, last weekend they did slow down just slightly on the final night. That allowed the gap to be reduced down to 27. And I say almost just 27 like it's nothing, because at one point, Edge, it was looking like it could have been as high as the 70s and definitely as the 60s. And they really dropped the ball in the final 2 games of the night. 9th place, 0 kills. 15th place, 4 kills. So only 4 points out of their final 2 games. On top of that, we saw Miramar United pick up the chicken dinner for the final game of last weekend, and Fury with a 4th, 3rd place finish. That gets them into 3rd place as well. Those 2, in my eyes, are the direct competitors to Divine Esports.
And we were about to just write it all off for Divine. We were pretty sure that this was their tournament, that they'd already taken it home. But we did see, yeah, in the end, that Divine just slowed down. They let teams catch up. Your Fury, your Buran, they all started to grind some points back and put themselves into that winning place position.
Battle Arena Elites, Division X Gaming round out the top 5. They're not too far behind, but still have got a ways to go. 8 games to be played, though. Of course, even for those 2, things can still happen in terms of first place. In saying that, though, if you are Bay, if you are Division X, and to an extent, Day Trade Gaming, the other team to round out the teams with 100+ points, second place is firmly a huge chance. Of course, a lot of eyes are always going to be on that top spot in particular. But second place is not a bad spot to finish either, Edge, for these teams in particular. That's still $35,000. That's still second place, which is a monumental task. So you got to shoot for first, but if you fall in second, it's not so bad.
I mean, you'll take it. You obviously want to go for that first, but you know, coming second is a nice, decent chunk of money, and you do get that recognition of being, you know, a top 3 team throughout the APAC region, and a lot of teams are really fighting for it, as we can see from Divine, Buram, and Fury, our leaders.
Those are the 3 that we'll keep an eye on. The focus, I will say, for the majority of the night, but that can change very quickly. You know, Team Blank, Battle Arena Elites, were in 4th, just outside of this top 3 focus group. They're like 9 points behind Fury, but they've been a team that has shown us time and time again throughout PCS2 APAC, they are capable of big 20+ point games, that they can really smash through those barriers in quick succession. But they have also shown us these sort of low points as well, where they can go to maybe 3 games without getting very little.
Yeah, that's definitely right. I think they're a team that we did expect a little bit more consistency from. But slowly over the tournament, they've brought it back. They've brought some of that consistency, and they've started to, really put themselves in it. And a team like Fury, they've had that consistency throughout, but they haven't had any wins yet. So it's a little bit of a difference there, where Buram's had those, I believe, 2 wins. Bay's had 2 wins as well, but Fury haven't had that win. Divine's had a couple of wins as well. So just it comes down to converting those big games into big wins.
It's interesting you mentioned that Fury have not found a chicken dinner so far. Of the teams in the top 8, only Game Home is the other team who hasn't found a win, and they're in that 8th place position. And then ironically, the team in 9th place, MSC Theraton's got 2 chicken dinners. So the actual wins isn't everything, but it is still a very large part.
It definitely is. And they were bragging on Twitter, saying that they wanted to be the first team to win a PCS without a win, but I'm not sure how far that'll get them. I think they'll need a win to put themselves up there against Divine, definitely.
Well, we are getting into things for the final weekend. We're not at that final games just yet. We're not at the pinnacle just yet, but we're about to build into it. 8 games remaining. It's the final weekend for PCS2 APAC upon us right now. And Edge, as we go into this weekend and as we sort of set the tone, your feelings that after the next 8 games that will be played out, does Divine still hold top spot?
I think it's going to be difficult for other teams to catch up, but we have some very strong teams up the top. We know that they can turn it on at any point and go for those big kill games, big wins. But I think if Divine plays consistent, plays for position, doesn't get too risky, and just plays to hold their lead, I definitely think that they can bring home this trophy.
Definitely agree with you as well. I think Divine rightfully favorites. The Pick'em challenges, which of course are all locked in now, also state that they are the favorites for the fans. We head over to Miramar to kickstart tonight. 2 games of Miramar, then following that will be 2 games of Erangel. It's Fury, though, the team from Australia that has been, well, the best team apparently on Miramar, averaging 11 points a game. Just below them, Divine. And then after that, Edge, a rather substantial drop-off in 3rd place, 7.9 compared to the top 2.
Yeah, it does just show how consistent Divine and Fury have both been, and that's what brings them up into that top 3 position. And Ram's not one to sort of sit back and relax. They do have that consistency more so on Erangel, but I'm definitely thinking that they're going to be coming out for Miramar, and they're coming for blood.
So we kickstart now. Game number 17. Day 5, match 1, PCS2 APAC. We've already had a couple of other regions, Edge, that have finished off. I believe it's actually just down to APAC and EU.
Yeah, that's right. EU's finishing their games in 2 days, I believe, and we've only got a day after today left to go. So it's all coming to an end, and teams won't be sort of relaxing after they finish here. They're back to practicing, getting ready for PCS3 that's shortly around the corner.
Yeah, PCS3 shouldn't, as you said, shouldn't be too far after PCS2, which I guess does give incentive even for these teams that are down the bottom of the standings. And look, you know, I'll say it now, this weekend is very much about the teams in the top 5 that, of course, can win. And so if we don't speak too much about the teams in 16th, 15th, etc., it goes without saying why, but they've still got a lot to play for. There's still so much that they can gain from playing in this particular lobby, the experience that they can gain, they can take back to their own regions and sort of learn and go over the VODs. So there's a lot to play for, even for those teams. And of course, the prize pool breakdown as well is always a factor. But for Divine Esports, it would be a big throw of all catastrophes if they do not win from here. Of course, they had a much, much larger lead. I think at one point it ballooned out to about 50, 52 points, something along those lines, down to 27 now, but still first place. And that's all that matters. 4 winner chicken dinners, as you can see as well on the infographic. Diane, Jayan, Levi's, and Turtle. If I have to ask you, though, Edge, who's probably been the standout for you, just from the eye test? The statistics don't back it up.
I feel like I've seen JN do a lot of work for the team. I'm pretty sure he's been the player who's got those seat swaps as well from last weekend. So he's definitely the name that comes to mind when I think about performing for Divine.
I have to agree with you. I think Turtle's also a very close second to J-End as well. Turtle's had some pretty big moments. Diane's been good, so has Levi's, and that is really what has been making them a powerhouse throughout PCS2 APAC, is the fact that really as a core 4, they have all been substantially significant to the team. There's no weak link in that roster. And I think typically if you do win tournaments like PCS, you can't have a weak link. Many times you see a team finish 4th or 5th. They've got 3 really solid players, but one just maybe lagging behind. Miramar United, though, is another team that, in my opinion, doesn't have that weak link. Canaxi, Edie, God Me Out, Nordra, they could all pop off. They're all superstar players. And I think for United, they have to give themselves a massive chance to overtake Divine. Of course, it all has to start now. You're running out of opportunities. You're running out of games to do so. And really what has been a theme for Miramar is that when Divine do let up, Miramar's not always there to capitalize.
Yeah, and that's something we've seen from a lot of our teams at the top of the leaderboard, is that as soon as Divine's out, they sort of crumble soon on after, and that's what's been able to allow Divine to sort of blow out their lead a bit more. But last week did show, after they went out pretty early, that teams weren't sort of slacking behind in waiting for Divine to stuff up a little bit of their lead.
I give them a big chance, a really big one. And obviously I think for them it also comes down to the circles more than maybe some other teams. They really do love to play that edge style. And that obviously then in play determines based off the circle. Fury, of course, our third team. I believe this will probably be the last graphic for this, as it seems to be these three are the major focus. But Insight, Juxi, Roden, Waikika, Mukau, and the hopes of an entire nation as well on their shoulders, as Astra really not too close in the running here. So third place, a team that's been doing really well on Miramar, more so than Erangel, does put emphasis here on the first two games tonight.
Yeah, it definitely does. Tonight's first game being that Miramar, it is sort of a tone maker for the rest of the night. It'll show how your teams are looking to perform throughout, because we do know that if you start strong, generally that momentum will carry you through, and that's what a lot of teams have been working off so far, is having that big build up of momentum that they can just bring to the next map of Miramar. And a lot of the times they sort of slip off on the halfway point when we switch maps.
Yeah. Well, I was wrong. There's another team for the infographic. Bay, of course, deservedly. They're not too far behind. And look, Neverhorse, Sophia, Loki's Flood, they've been amazing to watch. When they're at their best, they are one of the better teams, that's for sure. And that's why they're in the top four. They've already found a kill already, by the way. So 120 points for them rather than the 119 there on your screen to the right. 2 wins, and certainly an improvement from the earlier iterations of this roster when they first formed together. They were outplaying in OCE, struggled for PCS1 qualifiers, finishing second last in the Oceanic lobby. And then, of course, for PCS2, they went over to the Malaysia qualifiers. It goes without saying, they also had a very easy path in those qualifiers, but they've been very, very good here for PCS2 in what is a much, much tougher lobby than the one.
Bay has been extremely strong so far, and they're a relatively new roster, only forming shortly before PCS1 and coming out and putting up big numbers. Maybe not the qualifiers they want, coming in that second last position, but they stuck together. They worked on their basics, and they made themselves a really, really strong team. They're definitely a team that's got a lot of potential, and the longer they stay together, the better they'll potentially get.
Very there with a knockdown onto Insight. That could have big repercussions for Fury already early on here. They don't want to be losing any players this early into the game. Unfortunately, though, down to 3. Fury's a team, though, that they can come back from this. We've seen time and time again, as a trio, they can find kills, they can get involved, and they can sort of have their way with the lobby, playing a bit more freely, but I don't know. It's going to be tough from here for Cal, Ronan, Juxi without Insight. Still rotating in. Very south side of this phase 1 circle. 35 seconds. I think they're going to need a bit of luck here. Phase 2 probably needs to go south onto them and just at least make their rotation for phase 2 much more simple. From the future, close by to Bay. This is the other thing, though, for Divine as well, is that you've got so many teams below you where everything needs to go 100% perfectly. For Divine, they can still slip up. They can have a couple of games where things don't go perfect because they've got that 27-point lead, as we are 4 seconds away from phase number 2. But for the likes of Fury, Bay, Buriram, they can't have too many faulty games towards the end, and we are getting a very intriguing circle. North, west, close by to Luck Cobb. It's great for Division X Gaming. Sitting in 5th place, 118 points. This could be the platform for them to build off here for the weekend.
Yeah, you'd be absolutely laughing if you're Division X right now. You're definitely not laughing if you're Fury. Potentially losing more players here, as you've been caught out on the road. Archangel Predator does get the first knock onto Juxi, so 2 men left surviving for Fury right now, and it's not looking good. Cow gets taken down as well. Ronan, last man left surviving, and Ronan goes down. So Fury not starting off at all how they would have planned, and that comes back to the whole starting off your tournament good. It's not really looking great for them at the moment, and we'll see if they can bounce back or not.
Oh, that's not the way you want to sort of start the weekend as a whole. Getting wiped out quite easily, and the team in 3rd place, 128 points, not going to be able to gain any sort of ground on Divine. And now this 30-point gap that is the current point can very quickly balloon out. Let's see Divine have now a really big 10, 15-point game. That makes it, what, 45 points with 7 games. Finally, Neferhor will find the knockdown onto God Knew of Game Home. Oh, so that was actually the replay. Well, that was not really the most fancy replay. I'm not sure if Neff wanted that one to be shown again, but regardless, it's a kill nonetheless, and Bay's on the board. The other thing for Fury as well, when you've got so many teams still around you, of course, you're battling for first, and maybe you change things up for that first battle, but there's still a real possibility you could even drop down to 5th, for instance.
Yeah, it's definitely not good, and especially with Division X Gaming getting a solid circle here, that can carry them through into the later stages of the game. And something we actually see here is From the Future is currently using a stand-in, as I believe Teddy does have a power outage, so he's not able to make the games at the moment. So they'll have a little bit of a substitute for now, and hopefully he's a fragger.
Lee. It's a pout. Knockdown onto Ed V King, or just Ed King. Big game on the hands for Division X Gaming, though. With this position inside of the Phase 2 circle, I know we've got a long way to go from here. Ed, just things start to build here for the first game of the night. But Division X, you know, we speak about Fury, Buriram, Bay. They're in the equation. They're still in the conversation. And to a degree, Day Trade. But Day Trade's got a lot more to do. And they haven't really shown that they're capable of overcoming the point gap in the 8 games required. So I'm happy to exclude Day Trade from the conversations and then leave it as a top 5 in terms of first place. Obviously, Day Trade could still very well get second. 20 seconds until phase number 3. So far for Buriram United, playing that edge style out towards La Cobb. Out to the east. A couple of teams coming in behind them, though, soon will be Divine and X Stadium, for instance. Cerberus just to the south. So a lot of action happening towards the eastern side of La Cobb. As we're heading into phase number 3, guys, and just north again. Right on top of Division X Gaming. Astra's in the mix as well. But look at this battle out to the east. Divine's going to be in the midst of it, inside of the blue. They'll start it off, though, with a knockdown onto Hongvu. Diane will get that one. Godmeow, can he steal it away? Not quite. Of course, doesn't want to lose his life for it, and Levi's will pick up the elimination. So Divine on the board. That's one early kill, and that just increased the gap, 27 to 28.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting circle we don't see very often in PUBG, so it's going to be interesting to see what teams do and how they react here, as we do see Buriram getting that knock onto Diane. So Divine not out of trouble yet, and this is definitely what Buriram's wanting to do, wanting to take as many points away from Divine as possible, and potentially hold out Divine from getting into the circle. That'd be their ideal strategy, as Nordra takes out Turtle as well. Edie will flush that one down. So Divine down 2 players currently, 2 players scrambling to get into the circle. Buriram doing their best to hold them out right now. Divine just going to try and get in and hold out for now.
Diane going to bleed out. You get the one, now 2 kills at the very least, and you just wonder if this is shaping up to be a Divine game that we've seen from them so many times last weekend, where they can find 4 or 5 kills, but they go out early. No placement points. It has been their down point as the team in first. Canaxi can't get the knockdown onto JN. Does slide out, though. Very, very low. SLR's got 6 bullets. Can he be perfect with these shots? The last one counts and gets the headshot onto JN. There's only one up now for Divine. And it's shaping up to be that similar trend to what we saw last weekend. It's this time, though, it's only going to be 3 kills unless Levi's can find something else. Divine in trouble. Buriram, Bay, Division X can all start to bridge that gap once again. Have we got ourselves this weekend of Divine potentially letting that first place go slipping down the table?
This is absolutely perfect circumstances if you're Buriram. You'd be absolutely loving this, and especially because you've already got that position solidified in the zone, you know you can work off that. So taking a couple of players out of the current circle and hunting these Divine players is just so easy. You can back off at any point, and it's gonna lead to Buriram potentially having a game where they can close that gap, and it's not that big that the Baram's not going to be able to do it. So they can definitely pull through. They do have some other teams like Bay who will be contesting for those points, but Baram is the closest at this current point.
15 teams, 51 alive so far. First match of the night. Division X going to get the hard feed to the west of Lunkob. Astra's around there as well. Victim Rise up to the north side, and MSC Theraton maybe just laying in wait for Buriram United to make their way in. Phase 4. Ultra finds another kill. That's 5 down for Buriram United. God Meow heals up, and they're looking pretty good. 4 players up. 5 kills early on. Still a lot of work to do moving forward, though.
I feel like at the moment, Divine's unintentionally finding pickups across the map as they're hunting for the last Divine player. So their splits are working out for now. The circle has shrunk off them, so they do have to move in. Bay has found themselves a nice central spot. They do have this little bit of a defilade on the road, but it's not the greatest spot to be holding, as they do have From the Future just down the street, holding out the block. Don't want any intruders to come in while they're there.
Teams 50 alive. Still so many games to play. It's not do or die, but this is Levi's with a nice knockdown onto an Ordra. Yanku's going to steal the kill. So still only the 2 kills so far for Divine this game. 158 to 160. Canaxi just tumbling his way down the hill here for phase 4, which is again remained right on top of Division X Gaming, and it feels like this is going to be the sort of game for Division X where getting kills is going to be proving difficult, but they're going to get the placement points. So they're going to have what seems to be a similar outcome to Buriram by the end of this game. Canaxi making his way in. Levi's. It's absolutely paramount that Buriram take out Levi's since they're so close to him, and should have the information since Levi's did get the knockdown onto one of their players. Canaxi Edie. They are getting third party. That's from MSC Theraton, I believe, from what I can see. And it is Rossiter Jr., Yanku, and Yoshi Minbiri north of them on this hill. 1 kill for MSC.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of teams who are just outside of that top 5 that are going to be wanting to convert these games here as well to potentially bring themselves a little bit closer to the top 5. I think if you're in that mid pack, having your goal set to around top 5 would probably be perfect here. It gives you something to work for, but it's probably a little bit far to reach to that top 3 position for the likes of Game Home or MSC right now. So they'll be doing their best in their their little pack, their little group of teams that are sort of surrounding them, and it is very close in that middle pack as well. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of interesting games on our hands.
Edie going to be knocked down by Rossiter Jr. Levi's, how much damage can he put into Buriram here? Going to go with the try fight. Canaxi just sitting so close by. Wants to go for the flash in first. Levi's looks away into the corner. Still trying to just get off this first aid kit. As soon as he gets it off, though, gets peeked by Canaxi and gets eliminated by Canaxi. Got Meow knocked down, though. 6 kills for Buriram. It has still been a successful game, bringing the margin down. Not quite significantly. Of course, they have been quite wounded as they've been battling it out. But 6 kills, 2 players still alive. And, well, this circle's going to punish a lot of teams as well, not just Buriram. It's going to certainly favor Division X, Bay, and Astra more than anyone.
I do feel like Buriram definitely overstayed their welcome, just knowing that was the final Divine player in the little house. It sort of put them in a rough spot, especially going into this next zone. They're sitting on the edge. They don't really have anywhere to go, and I would have thought that if they position themselves a little more central, that they could still potentially hold out the final Divine player and then have that position moving forward in the zone to get even more points. But now it's looking really rough for them to actually get any more points out of this game.
11 teams, 39 alive. 20.5 minutes here. First game of the night. The gap is down to 23 points. Kaiser Jr. just pushing up onto the road. Game home close by as well. Nade in hand for Glories. First one just going to fall short of Neza and Botbass. Needed with a knockdown onto Yoshiman Buri, though. That's another good sign for Buriram United in their catch-up against MSC Theraton. And Bay getting close too. Can they find some kills? Loki's with a bit of damage onto Neza. Botbass trying to just provide cover fire as well so he can fall back, get a heal. That's even better. Knockdown onto Sophia. Loki's reloading. It needs to get involved here and also try and get this knockdown. It should be successful, and it is. Botbass eliminated. 4 kills now for Bay. They're getting closer towards catching up to Fury. 5 points behind the team who went out in last place this game. Kaiser Juna going to go in 10th. 9 teams remain. 31 alive, and Sabout looking to clean up. This is where Division X Gaming, with what should be a lot of utility, a lot of health, and all 4 players alive, can get involved thanks to their position that they've had throughout this game.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting game if you're the likes of Division X or Bay. You're up in that 4th, 5th position. You've got 4 players alive. You've already got some kills to your name, and you've got a decent circle to work in off. This circle doesn't really favor them, but whoever controls the hill here can potentially pick up so many kills. And they're not far away from Fury or Buriram at all. So what is potentially a 2-3 horse race could very quickly turn into a 5 horse race.
Victor Ryan's getting involved as well against Cerberus. So Bay, Division X Gaming, both have an opportunity. And this is, I literally said it in the pre-show as well, Edge, that Fury could drop down to 5th. Well, it looks like that's going to happen this game. Barring the fact that good. Bay or Division X could obviously wipe each other out right now. Although Division X Gaming pushing closer over towards Astra. Bay may then elect to push up north into Victim Rise. Bay have got 3. Division X have got 4. Astra have got 4 as well. But you just look at the gap between 10th and 9th and how far behind they are of MSC Theraton and Game Home. Astra have got to be perfect tonight. But if they can at least secure top 10, it's not so bad by the end of it. Genfos knocked down onto Flood. Bay's not in a good position here, and I don't sense they're going to be long for this world.
Yeah, it's not looking good. VTR's looking to close in and wipe Bay out. They're not happy with Bay coming close to them right now. Genfos does look like he's backing up a little bit here. Doesn't want to get caught out while the circle is moving in. If he gets knocked out, there's not really any reviving him. So good move by him to move out. And he does have the likes of Simoy sitting on that high ground watching Bay. They've got a lot of work to do here to get in for Bay now. And it doesn't look like they've got much to play around. As soon as they start to push up, they're just going to be in the open.
Just feels like they're going to get pinched between Division X Gaming and Victim Rise here, and seemingly that's the case. Sophia does get a knockdown onto Long K, but Samoy pushing up close with the Grozer. And with help from Gemforce, Bay certainly about to be eliminated shortly here. Only Sophia remains. 6 kills and at least 2 placement points. Not a horrible game from Battle Arena Elites. It's a matter of, can Sophia find anything else? A quick knockdown and a flush would be ideal just to secure another point and make things hard then for Division X moving forward. They've got a player knocked down though, Division X Gaming, so it's only 3 players up, 2 right directly in front of Sophia. And now Samoy getting a knockdown onto Long K. This is buying a lot of time for Sophia, and technically it's a 1v2 right in front of him. It's not impossible from this position. Division X are the ones probably under more threat right now. Although, of course, Sophia just doesn't have the numbers and the blue right behind him. Not only that, but he's got to reload at the same time. And Victim Rise are just going to finally send Bay packing. Could very well do the same as well to Division X Gaming. They will. In fact, it's Astra from behind. So I think Divine just breathing a sigh of relief there that Astra and Victim Rise just taking out Bay and Division X. And that's the top 5 sealed with 7 games to go.
Yeah, and once again, what we see is Divine go out early, but so do all the competitors. Buriram maybe overstayed their welcome trying to hold out Divine so heavily, and then everyone else just crumbled. So even your top five is still remotely the same. We do have Bay has jumped over Fury right now, but the points are absolutely so close that realistically now it's anyone's game. Anyone in that top five, potentially top six, if VTR can convert this game into a win, anyone can catch up to Divine.
4 teams remaining. As you can see in the top left corner of your screen, day 5, match 1. So 7 games still to be played after this. 3 more tonight, 4 tomorrow. So we're not really at the panic stations position just yet, where you've got to start to think, can you get 20 points in a singular game? And Miramar United, it's kind of job done. 27-point gap has turned into a 22-point gap. So you've at least gained some ground. You get closer to the 10s, and really anything can happen. Victim Rise, though, it's a good opportunity for them. If they're going to get into the top 5 edge, these are the sort of games they need to have. You've got 4 players up, 8 kills, sitting in 6th position right now on the standings. So go on and win this game, and they're in the conversation then. Maybe not even just for top 5, but you consider how close Bay, Fury, Division X all are. They could technically get in the conversation for top 3.
Yeah, 100%. VTR, if they get some more kills here, they're putting themselves in a really advantageous position to catch up with that leading pack. And the more teams in that pack, the more dangerous makes it for Divine. Even if potentially later on today we get some day trade games, they haven't really had good games since the first weekend, but they do have that potential as well.
But this is just the perfect recipe for Divine, as you mentioned it. 6th place, 10th place, and 14th place. No competitor to Divine still alive in this game. And for every game tonight and tomorrow night where this is the case, it means that Divine don't have to be that perfect team. They don't have to be themselves in this situation. But if you were to look at in an alternate reality, if this was Biram, Bay, Fury all battling it out towards the end as the final 3 teams in this game, and that happens a couple of times, that's when that gap will shrink really quickly. 3 kills for Astra, 4 players alive. They've had the circle for the majority of the game, but so did Division X, and yet they're gone. So the question is, do they push on their Celebi? Well, Celebi is gone.
Yeah, Astra right here needs to make that play, and they've started to do it. They've kind of pincered themselves between Magic Gaming and VTR. They do get that first pick. Zoidmate taking out his teammate Lynxy at the same time as Tonk, so maybe not an intentional grenade there, but they do end up picking up MG. 100% a third imposter. He will get the revive off onto Lynxy, but he does lose Extreme and Nico in that meantime. But we are left down to what seems to be a 2v2v3 right now. So pretty even playing field as the circle is coming in for that final shift. And it will be an interesting one to see who can put themselves in front in this game.
Valix and Boshi. Magic Esports go on and win this game. They can find themselves out of the bottom 3. Still 3 up for Victim Rise, but Kamal's just so close to that blue. Not any space at all. And Zoidmate did get the revive onto Lynxy, fortunately. Astra now 14 points behind MSC Theraton and Game Home, though. And really what this game has done has given Astra some hope of finishing inside the top 10, not just 10th itself. Of course, with 7 games still to be played, they can capitalize on this sort of game and gain some momentum to finish off this season of PCS. I think Boshi and Valix might be in trouble. Do still have the minivan if they want to try and slow move that into the middle of the circle. Couple of smokes still up. 2 smokes in hand for Samoy. None for Chibaret though, but getting into the better position. And we'll have some cover from behind. Right now, it does just feel like though, because Victim Rise has got the 3 players edge, they should be favored here.
Yeah, you definitely think so. And they do have some nice terrain to play with. Ooh. So unless Astra can put themselves in a really good position to potentially hold out this circle, then I don't really see much of a chance being being there for Astra. I don't think they've got that terrain, and I don't think that VTR is going to give them any space to sort of to move up at all. Lynxie does take some shots, and as I that knocks out Chibrit, so they can definitely convert it here. It's back to the 2v2.
Yep, 2v2, like you said. Samoy Kamals versus Lynxie and Zoidmate of Astra. Looking for the win here. Samoy with the Grozer, that's going to be hard to beat, and immediately just sits down Lynxie. They did get the bleed out onto Chibaret, so 6 kills for Astra confirmed. So it's got his own Grozer though with the 3 times. It's the battle between the 2 times and the 3 times, but of course Kamal's up close is going to make it so difficult for Zoidmate. Does he go from 3rd imposter to winner? He can't get the knockdown onto Kamals, and I think he's going to lose this one. 20 health, Kamals is knocked down. And did he just die to the blue?
He did.
He died to the blue. Oh, what a win for Victim Rise. Look, you take it. You will always take that. Doesn't matter. And he was probably going to get Zoid anyway. Victim Rise picking up the chicken dinner.
Yeah, if I'm Victim Rise, I'm definitely happy there. 13 kills on the board. Astra as well, I'm pretty chuffed with myself as well, because they haven't been having the best of games, and this could be a good turnaround point. And I say that with a lot of hope in my heart that Astra can turn this around.
Oh, look, what a game. What a game. I would love to know whether or not Zoid knew he was right on the blue there. Look, he was running out of options regardless, and a 2v1 was always going to be difficult. So couldn't really have expected much more from him towards the end there. Victim Rise certainly deserved that. They were in the thick of the action for the majority of the game, really. What felt like maybe not quite from the get-go, but from pretty early on towards the end, and that's why they racked up the amount of kills that they had towards the end, getting that win. Of course, they were in the circle for the majority of the game, but of course the story of it, besides just them winning and now giving themselves an opportunity for the top 5, of course, going back to Divine Esports, no surprise that we'll talk about them, but another sloppy game. And this is something they've done now over the last couple of games, ending last weekend, coming into this weekend. They keep finding a way to get 2 or 3 kills edge, but it's getting close. Miramar United getting very close. 23 points gained for Victim Rise, though, and that will move from 99 points up to 122 points. They're into 6th place, but most importantly, they're only 6 points behind 3rd now. They're only 16 points behind 2nd. They're in the mix. Maybe not so much for 1st place and overtaking Divine, unless they do this every game from here on out, but they're in the mix now for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, it's getting pretty interesting now, and if I'm Divine, I'm starting to sweat a little bit, because if Buram had the game that Victim Rise just had, that's leveling the points, and for Divine, there's still 7 games left. You really can't afford to drop the ball at all anymore. There's really no more chances, I don't believe, from here on out. It's just going to be too easy for teams to capitalize from here.
There's the total leaderboard, 160 points for Divine from the 158 that they had. Victim Rise up the standings, and they dominated the damage this game as well. Division X through Sapao and Zoidmate through Astra did find themselves on the standings. I don't believe that was the picture that Zoidmate submitted, but I guess they got 2 different ones for the damage leaderboard and the in-game one. I would have loved to have seen the in-game one there on the leaderboard screen. But hey, better game from Astra, and like you said, you can't hope for them that they can build off that. They've not really been able to show what feels like they've got true form behind them, but 83 points now, 12 points behind 8th and 9th. That's sort of probably the goal. Get inside the top 10. 10th itself, not good enough, as we look at the highlights for the first game of the night.
Yeah, and if I'm Zoid, I'm definitely trying to fill out those sleeves. Got to do some heavy lifting for the team to put them really back into the contenders level of this, get them past that halfway point. And as we see here, Fury, a team who really needed to not go out early and to potentially have a big game.
So Levi's tried his best for Divine solo for quite a while. They just got bundled out super early on, though. JN almost escaped here, actually. Canaxi, though, with the either final shot or the second last shot on that SLR claiming his head. Biram looked like they were going to capitalize, but like we said in the pre-show, and this is why we said it, they just, again, can't capitalize to the fullest extent when Divine bail out. Yes, they did pick up, a good solid 6-7 kills or so, but you kind of expected more from them in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they expected a lot more from themselves, but they did put themselves in that position to wipe out Divine. They got the kills, but they just weren't able to convert it into having a decent position to work off mid-game.
Of course, in the end, Victim Rise just rising to the top when it mattered. 13 kill win, their second win for PCS2 APAC, and the win that they had prior to this one was a 10 kill win. So when they do good, they do pretty good. They just haven't quite been as consistent, especially on, say, the first weekend and a little bit on the second weekend. But the second day of last weekend, and now, of course, starting off today, it feels like a different Victim Rise here, as they, as I said, have now given themselves a chance. Second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. And who knows, maybe if you continue this sort of run, then first is also on the cards.
Definitely is, and they're going to be trying to push up to put themselves in that position probably by the end of the night, hopefully.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break. On the other side, we'll have our second game of Miramar very shortly. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the final weekend for PCS2 APAC. 7 games to go. Victim Rise, our most recent chicken dinner winner, as they got the win over Astra in the end on Miramar. We got one more Miramar game to go. After that, of course, we'll then have our 2 matches of Erangel to follow. So far, though, a lot of the focus, of course, has been on the top 3 teams. Edge, though, Divine have been struggling, really, in the last 3 games overall.
Yeah, it hasn't been the Divine we've been seeing previously in the tournament. They've had those absolute killer games, but you've got to put it in the Divine here that they can't realistically keep up that dominating performance every single game. They were having so many high kill wins. They were putting themselves in amazing positions, and just in the nature of PUBG, it's kind of unrealistic. So yeah, Divine taking what they've been given and running with it, but you know, this could be the turning point where someone can catch up.
100% agree with you, and it's just also a matter of how many times is Divine going to allow teams like Miramar United, like Fury, like Bay to have this opportunity to catch up. And we've seen so far throughout the 3 weekends for PCS2 APAC that this has happened a couple of times, where Divine have slipped up for a few games, and then teams just don't capitalize, and then all of a sudden Divine goes and gets 20 points in a game, and then the lead balloons right back out like it just never shrunk. It's time to see if Buriram or the teams close to Buriram can shrink this permanently and keep it shrunk as well. Here's an interesting tidbit though. Over the last 3 games, 154 points was the total for Divine. 106 points was the total for Buriram. This was 3 games ago. Since then, the gap has gone from 48 to 22. 32 points gained to Buriram, only 6 points gained for our leaders Divine. So it kind of goes to show you that just slowly but surely, over 3 games, the gap has been shrinking, but we know what Divine is capable of. We know they can go and get a 20-point game here, and if Buriram get nothing, all that work over 3 games is evaporated in 1 game.
Yeah, this is definitely Buriram playing that long con. They're slowly building up points. They're not letting Divine sort of know what's happening. They're coming in with their sneak level 100. So, you know, if they can keep this up, keep slowly, gradually getting those points, and then they get that 1 game to convert into a win, into a big kill game, then all of a sudden they're right up even with Divine. Divine is absolutely going to be shaking in their boots when they've been caught up from such a massive lead.
Well, it feels like Divine's got a bit of work to do. They can't just rest on their laurels. They can't just rest on the point lead that they've accrued so far. Now they've got to get back in the driver's seat. Now they've got to really go and find some kills and win these games in a more dominant fashion. Buriram United, not a bad circle for them. North side close by to Al Azhar. So I think this could very well be a game set up well for them. Fury, of course, lost to the owners. They're going to have a decent drive through for this sort of circle. The team that's probably going to struggle, not necessarily struggle, but the team that's got the most to travel here is actually Divine, Monte Nuevo. Obviously, the team south of them, Kaiser, like, yes, okay, sure, but Kaiser Jr. is not in the same position as Divine in terms of the standings. So more on the line here for Divine, and coming from Monty, this could be an intriguing game for them. Is this going to be 4 games in a row for Divine that they falter, which would be the first time for PCS2 APAC? History says by now they find that form again. Will they or won't they? It's going to be the difference between them, with 6 games to go after this, winning PCS2 APAC or causing a lot of people to be upset.
I think if you're Divine, you don't want to leave it any later than this to get your mojo back and to start putting yourself into the game, because the longer you do leave it, the quicker teams will start picking it up. And Fury's had really good games on pretty much identical first circles to this, so it's really hard, because if you're Divine, you're obviously trying your hardest to keep this lead, but maybe you're just getting in your own head and you're putting yourself in positions that you wouldn't normally put yourself in. Are you just technically outplaying yourself? That's what it's going to be for Divine here.
I know I've referenced sort of just like the last 3 games, and that's maybe a bit nitpicky. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to add even 3 games after that. So this last 6 games for Divine, 5th place, 5 kills. Not bad. I think we can all say that's a pretty decent game. For your average game, you'll happily take that. 10th place, 7 kills. So no placement points, but they were able to rack up a lot of kills early on in that game. And that's something we've seen a lot from them. They've had, for instance, 15th and 6 kills. How often do you see that? That's the sort of team they are. Then they had a 4th place and 7 kills. So they weren't necessarily dominating, but they were doing very well. The downside for that is at that point in time, Buriram was getting second and Fury was getting second in 2 out of 3 of those games as well. So they were doing good, like in terms of averagely good, but they just weren't really increasing the lead like they had been doing earlier on. Since then, of course, as I've sort of touched on, the last 3 games have been probably their worst 3 games collectively over the whole of PCS2 APAC. But look at the champion prediction, and even that win percentage has now come down 65%. At one point, it was around 80%. That's a pretty substantial drop.
Yeah, that's a very big drop, and that gives a lot of hope to Buriram. But as we've seen previously, Divine, we were talking about it before, they've got their 4 players at any given time can have one of those players step up and start bringing in some points for them. So by no means are they out of this. By no means are they going to let themselves be put out of this? But they do have a lot of work ahead of them to keep themselves in the fighting.
The good news, though, of course, for Divine and all of this talk around them is that it's still in their hands. It's completely still up to them. Of course, if you're Buram, if you're Bay, if you're Fury, you can do everything right. But if Divine then just have a belter of a last day tomorrow, there's nothing you can do about it, right? You can't really stop that from happening unless you hot drop them. But none of them are really in that sort of hot drop territory. But who knows? Maybe by the end of tomorrow night, it could happen. Fury, though, the sort of the story, I think, for not just this season, but this year as a whole, PC Charity Showdown, PCS1, and now PCS2, they are a team that gets a lot of damage edge, but the kills just don't sort of back it up. Like, they get the damage, but they just can't get the kills.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that Fury fight early and fight hard, but then you don't pick up all of those late game end game kills. Like you might see a Buram pick up, maybe have they might get the rest of the kills in the lobby from a top 3 position and get like an extra 7 kills. Fury doesn't put themselves in that winning position and isn't able to pick up those end of game kills. So it's a lot of damage farming early, and they do pick up a lot of kills early, but they're just not in those late game situations where you can convert kills a lot more easily.
And just saw Astra just pushing close to Buick United. Astra's still a team that you get into a fight with them, they can win it comfortably. Anyone really in this lobby. They just haven't been necessarily consistent in the nature, unfortunately, for Astra. They had a really rough patch from rounds 11 to 16 edge, 8th, 6th, 16th, 8th, 14th, 14th, and then finally last game they finished second. They started well, actually, with a 3rd and a 6th with a couple of kills, and to round out the first weekend with a 2nd place 17 kill game, 4th place 5 kill game. But since then, Astra just went into a hole they just couldn't find a way out of until that last game just then for round 17, the first game of the night. And now into match number 2, we'll see if Astra can find a way, like you said, to sort of build on that and finish strongly. As Battle Arena Elites had a decent game. Like Buram catching up slightly to Divine. Of course, Bay 10 points behind Buram United, and they were, of course, even further behind Divine Esports then. If Buram are 22 points behind Divine, well, you plus 10 for Bay. They're 32 points behind. Tied with Fury, of course, as well.
Yeah, and that goes for the rest of our teams, even at the mid packs, is that you've got teams like your Cerberus who, you expected them at the start of the tournament to be one of your leading teams, and they haven't come out with those numbers. I'd say MSC Theraton as well, another team that had higher expectations, not really performing up to scratch, and that's why we've got this pretty averagely strong mid-end of the tournament, where we thought we'd get some more out of these teams. But I think it's past that point for a lot of your mid to late teams that it's really not sustainable to put yourself in these better positions right now.
You just look at that standings and you wonder, if you were to just take Divine out entirely and then go from Buram down to, say, Daytrade, imagine if that's your leader. Imagine Buram leading on 138 points with 7 games left, including this. Like, what a close finish that would be. Of course, Divine's there, though, and they've earned those 160 points, and everyone has to catch up to them. And that is, though, a very ugly circle for a lot of teams. Essentially, if you're not inside of this circle, good luck. And Divine is one of those teams not inside of these circles. It's outside of Lab and Dita, close to Daytrade. They'll be coming in late, which means they're going to have to be fighting. This is either going to be really good for Divine or really bad. I don't see a middle ground here at all, Edge.
No, that's right. They've got a rough rotation ahead of themselves. Potentially, they can backfill a team who's moved more central in the zone. But after, I just think you're just going to lock yourself out of more zone control. So potentially, in my eyes, the play right now is to just go for a sort of ballsy all-in send and just try and find something more central, because the longer you wait to centralize, the harder it's going to be.
Loki's just got swatted by Valix and Sulabi, both combining. They down to 3. It's not ideal. There's even a headshot there onto Neferhor driving by. This is just an unfortunate rotation northwest side for Bay, not even close to this circle either. And just for instance, by the way, Divine pushing into the circle. Turtle's just been knocked off the bike by Marcus. They're down to 3. I don't think Turtle's getting out of this one alive. No, siree, says Marcus. And our leaders Edge continue to falter. 4th game in a row, and they're down to 3 players. Can they survive for a little bit longer here? JN's going to meet his end. Hongbu has brought Divine Esports down to 2 players. And I just keep mentioning it, but it's now 4 games in a row. Are they throwing PCS2 APAC right before our very eyes?
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was saying before. I thought that Divine needed to make that risk to try and centralize in, and they're doing exactly that. This time it hasn't worked. Maybe the next time they try it, they find that gap. But right now, it just hasn't worked out for them. Being left with only 1 player now, JN is knocked out, and I'm very doubtful that he'll be able to get picked back up now, especially with Fury close by. So, and another game that Divine are letting every other team slowly but surely catch back up. And this could be a big one, especially for a team like Fury, who, if they get a little bit of circle luck here, they can just convert everything, and they are a very heavy fragging team.
Yeah, Fury's the type of team that can go and get 12-kill win, and suddenly then that 30-point gap is 8. I can't believe that. It could be in single digits after this game, dependent, though, of course, on the teams below Divine actually punishing Divine. This is going to be the 4th game in a row that Divine are going to falter and get either little to none. They have shown in the past that even in these sort of situations, as Levi's will get the revive at a JN, that they can still go on as a duo. I wouldn't be surprised they go and still get 1, 2, maybe 3 kills, dependent on the way it happens here. They could get 0, though, especially with Insight and Fury close by, and they should be obviously wary of the fact that taking out Divine as quick as possible is right up their interests. But in saying that, you don't really want to give up good position, and you don't want to put yourself in a risky situation when it's only 2 players of Divine. It's really not worth it. You've got a good spot here. Phase 3, will it remain so for Fury? Yes, it will. And there's still a bit of water in as well. So to the right-hand side of your screen, there's still water and you guys can't see it. But this means, Edge, we know exactly where Phase 4 is going to go. It's going to go right on top of Fury. They do not have to move. And I do believe they've already picked up 2 kills. So they can definitely win this game. It may not be sort of the 10 or 15 kill win, but even a 6, 7, or 8 kill win is perfect right now for Fury to capitalize on Divine basically falling by the wayside here towards the back end of PCS2 APAC.
The biggest issue for Divine here is that you literally have your strongest competitors in the circle, dead center, with compounds right now. Your Buram, your Division X, your Fury, they all have strong compounds, and the likelihood of these top 3 teams winning it is extremely high. So that makes it very difficult if you're Divine right now, especially with 2 players left. It's not going to be the easiest game to do any work from, and it's an easy game for everyone else to catch up on now.
Oh no, Defiant just lighting that one up for a good while. It's always rough when you're not sure, are you being watched like that? Sophia gets in the buggy, immediately just gets his head ripped right off, and well, this is sort of the tale that we've seen play out a few times. Is it Bay that are going to sort of falter while Divine also falter? They're not going to be able to capitalize. They go to Zerk Stadium, by the way, last place. They get quickly eliminated by Day Trade. Divine, though, knocked down by Neferhor, and he's come to save the day. It's only Ed v King that remains from the future. And of course, if we sort of just trail things back to the very early of this game, Loki's got eliminated very quickly on that first rotation for Bay. They should be able to find their second kill here. So 3 players up. Neferhor should be able to get this one. King is gone. The King is dead. Neferhor reigns supreme. 2 kills now for Bay. And that just also shifts them up into 3rd place. I would imagine they've got the kill time of Fury then, since we saw it on the rankings swap them with Fury. They're tied on 130 points.
Yeah, so we're back even again. So our top 4, top 5 top 6 even is incredibly close. You know, you were saying before, you take Divine out of that equation, and it's realistically anyone's game. No one has to catch up or have big games to really level those points. All they need to do is just have those average games and just have better games than the other teams. So it's good here for our top 6. You know, your Fury, Bay, Ram, they can easily close this gaps, but they do still have a couple of hurdles in their way, and this next zone may be one of them.
Phase 4 goes north. That means J-End and Levi's will have to leave that rock just north of Impala, which I probably think is going to spell demise for them very soon. A lot of teams already around them as well. Up to the very north side is MSC Theraton, Bay, Magic Esports, Buram, just on the west portion of this current circle. More northernly, though. And they'll have Cerberus and Astra pushing onto them, so a big opportunity for Buram to find some kills for teams coming in outside of this circle. They can gatekeep them. They can get some kills on the board. 21 points behind Divine right now. Can they get closer? Flood's going to be knocked down by Sulaby. This is a huge battle up to the northeast between Bay and Magic Esports. And MSC Theraton probably going to hear these gunshots and get involved. There's J-End and Levi's of the rock. They're going to open it up on the Poochers on Flash, but J-End can't even win that fight. Even catching them off guard. Of course, it was a 2v1, but couldn't even get a single knockdown. Levi's climbs up and unfortunately misses these shots, gives away his position as well. Divine are going to go out in 14th position with 0 kills. They are stuck on 160, and that now means Edge, going back to some of the pre-show topic around their points, 6 points in 4 games. 6 in 4 games. Nuts.
Yeah, this is definitely not how you want to be having your games if you're Divine. I'm not sure what they really need to do. They're just not getting, I'm not going to call it circle luck, but they're just not putting themselves in those positions to convert into anything, even in the top standings. They're not getting the early kills like they were before, and they're just getting picked apart. So Divine is going to be really starting to sweat now. This is not how they wanted to have their second last day of PCS.
Well, you say that, but they still haven't been punished. No team below them has directly gone and punished them with a big game. Ram, are they going to do so, though? God me out, knocked down onto Niku. Sweetmate got carbs. That means Astra's sort of in a fight between 2-3 different teams all at once. This is going to be great news for Ram United. They've already got the gap from 22 to 21 points this game. So anything from here for Ram is going to be a plus point. They just send Astra out in 12th position. The team that got second in the last game straight back down to another below par game for them immediately. And now Cerberus, they are just like dinner ready to be served to Ram United, who have already got 3 kills. If they can find 4 here, Edge, that's 7, and that brings the gap to 15. There is actually every possibility Ram could be in first by the end of this game. That is staggering to even think.
Yeah, and if they keep on just farming the lobby right now, it's definitely doable. Like, they've already got a couple of kills on the board. If they potentially hold out and pick up all of Cerberus, like, that's already 145 points. So, you know, it really closes the gap incredibly quick. And that's what we've been saying this entire tournament, is all it takes is one big game and teams are back in it. And potentially, this is Ram putting themselves on top of the leaderboard. So if they can convert this, it's going to make it very messy for Divine.
They're not the only ones, though, of course. I mean, Fury are 10 points behind Ram United, and well, Bay were, but they're gone this game. Bay's going to sort of follow suit, as has been so far for PCS2 APAC, where Divine go out. At least 2 to 3 of the direct teams below them fall out pretty quickly as well. That's going to be Bay this game, but if at least Ram and Fury can capitalize and put the pressure onto Divine, and here goes Fury right now. Cal's got 3 of their kills so far. Jukesy getting involved with a knockdown onto Haisaki. Edie on the other side, they're going to get the knockdown onto Insight. So Ram just completely disregarding Cerberus below them because they don't have the vision, and instead they get the knockdown onto Fury. That gives them a lot of information as well on a team that, of course, is directly below them on the standings, which is, of course, Fury. 3 kills for Ram, 3 kills for Fury. And surely Cerberus are going to be out here by either of them, whether it's Fury or Cerberus or the blue. As Juxi does get the kill onto Haisaki. That's going to be the 4th kill of the game for Fury now. They're up to 4 kills this game. 132 as a total mark. And of course, they're still got a decent position for this phase 5 circle. They've got every chance, just as Buriram do, of eventually overtaking Divine.
Yeah, Fury putting themselves in an advantageous position here, trying to third party the Cerberus and Aburam fight. As we see VTR and Kaiser Tuna starting to break out in fight right now, and Kaiser Tuna left down to 2 players, very separated. VTR in between, but no real threat to VTR here, so they're going to be able to get themselves out of this, no worries. And VTR has almost pushed themselves up into that 5th position, so we're getting a lot closer for VTR here to being up with the big boys in that top 3, top 4 area.
Yeah, certainly could be the case, especially overtaking Bay, who are stuck on 130 points this game. Yoshimi and Buri knocked down into Nordra. Now they could get overwhelmed here if they're not careful. Edie, though, does get Basil. Not going to allow him to sneak up. There's the second one as well onto Ghoul from Kanaxi. He is taking some damage. Waiki Kamukau, Fury looking to put on the clinic. They've been saying this clinic is on last weekend. Now they've moved it to this weekend. Nordra, Edie, both knocked down. God, Meow, and Kanaxi. The last 2 up for Buriram United. They brought the gap to first by 16 points. Juxi knocked down, though, by Kanaxi. It's second and third, though, battling each other. This was not part of the script, Edge. They were supposed to do this together. They were supposed to catch up to Divine together. Instead, one of these 2 teams is going to be wiped out. Not only that, but the team that does survive is going to be heavily wounded moving forward. I can't see either of these 2 teams winning this game from here.
Yeah, it's looking a bit rough right now, and especially if they keep fighting and hunting each other. Buriram and Fury, both teams that had potential to close the gap on Divine, but this is working in Divine's favor as they're both just taking each other out of the game and not letting either team sort of pull up some more points.
Only Ronan remains. Good, of course, though, Divine got nothing this game, so even these 5 kills for Fury, they'll get a placement point, as Ronan's the last one alive, is still an improvement. We are still seeing them close the gap. Buriram's just that little bit ahead of Fury, though, in doing it. 14 points the margin. Only Kanaxi and God Meow up, though. If they can get Ronan, it'll make it a 13-point gap. I would say at this point, though, Buriram's passed the punishing Divine test. This is not just sort of like a 2 or 3 point game. They've done enough here in my eyes to at least capitalize and continue to, you know, bridge the gap here. Ronan not going to be spotted because of the bush. Now is, though. Does get the knockdown onto God Meow. Now makes it a 1 versus 1. Kanaxi versus Ronan. If Kanaxi loses this fight, Buriram are going to go out to Fury in the end. Ronan picks up the double. Fury complete the clinic. They've got 7. They wipe out the second place Buriram, and they now themselves could try and bridge the gap to second place. 9 points. Buriram shut out early, 14 points to Divine, and Fury can build their own gap to the teams 4th and below.
Yeah, but I don't know how possible it's going to be with Ronan sitting on the edge, and you know you've got MSC and Game Home in between you and safety. So Ronan's going to have to do a lot of work if he really wants to put himself in this game to potentially get more placement points and more kills here. I just don't know if it's really plausible for him to do right now.
Division X Gaming 4 players still up, though, and I mean, we've still got 19 alive, and there are quite a few teams surrounding Division X. I mean, right behind them, as you can see, Magic Esports, and if they can get this squad wipe, you go from 1 kill to 5 kills pretty quickly. You're going to obviously then overtake Bay. I think right now it's a certainty they're going to overtake Bay, get into the top 4. They've got VTR right on their heels, 128 points to the 129 of Division X Gaming. Phase 6, 35 seconds till Phase 7. Getting towards the end of our final Miramar game of the night. Of course, 2 games of Erangel after this, which will be then, of course, the end of day 5. It's just been action-packed from the get-go here tonight. The PCS2 APAC, and it's just a matter of who can keep this momentum going. Really, these teams, Buriram, Fury, Bay, Division X, they can't have bad games. Even with Divine having bad games, that you still have to have really good games almost every single game from here on out. And it's slowly happening, but there's still a lot of games to play.
Yeah, that's right. And The gap has been closed to that point where it doesn't even take like a win and some kills to catch up now. It's literally like a third or fourth place with some kills, and you can put yourself in the same area as Divine here. So there's not really too much teams have to do, and if you're relying on Divine to continue throwing, maybe that's not the best sort of plan for you to carry on the rest of this game. But so far, it's been working. That teams have just been letting Divine just get themselves killed each game, and this is where the choke factor sort of comes in very late, and
Yeah.
Divine seem to be really capitalizing on that.
Sylvie going to be eliminated for getting home. Only one more left. Oh, Ronan's just found God Newt. Now, well, they're gone. There goes their one player. And into the top 5 goes Fury and another kill. 5 teams remaining, 14 alive. Although, of course, Ronan doing that does give away his position to VTR. VTR, though, of course, will have to worry about MSC Theraton. Vision X Gaming, though, did end up getting pinched between MSC and Magic Esports. MSC, the beneficiaries, getting the majority of the kills in that fight. They're now into the top 8. They've also cracked triple digits, 105 points for them in total. VTR more concerned about Ronan, though, and that's the unfortunate part for Ronan. I think in another reality, maybe VTR pushes on MSC Theraton and Ronan somehow gets involved, but they're kind of hunting him down there on the minimap, as you can see, pushing close by. Ronan can't win that one, was not expecting Gemfos that close, and Fury go out in 4th, but they are here to play. They are here. They are tied. Well, I thought they were tied for a second, but it's a 0-6, whatever, close by. They're 6 points behind Biram, 20 points behind Divine. It's all set up for this final finish and the final 6 games to go as MSC Theraton, they themselves are too far behind the this top 3 situation edge, but MSC, I think the best case for them is overtaking Day Trade. I don't know, maybe hoping for 5th or 6th at best here. VTR, though, of course, they're right in it too. And they finish it off, only 2 players left. It's unlikely. MSC Theraton certainly the favored ones here. Yoshimanburi with a nice tag and a Samoy, but he knows Yanku's close by. Just above him, lands a tag, though. I think it might have even been a headshot, a glancing one, though, at that. Flash grenade, putting the barrel to good use. 7 kills for Victim Rise, looking for yet another chicken dinner. Rossad's been knocked out, but Yoshi gets Samoy, so it's only 1 left. It's only Gemfos. And Yoshimanburi is going to be right on top of him very shortly.
Yeah, and as we see, Yoshimanburi putting up the fight against Genfos. Genfos goes for the reload, but isn't able to do enough there, and MSC will take that victory. MSC, a team that's got, what's that, 3 wins now?
Yeah. And
VTR has put themselves in that 2nd place position and put themselves up to 4th. So I'd love to see VTR's like previous, 4, 5, 6 games and see their averages, because they've been doing a lot of work and putting themselves in such great positions to actually make up some ground on these top teams right now.
Well, yeah, for VTR's sake, a couple of games ago, 1st and 10 kills. Of course, the last game that we just had prior, 1st and 13 kills. So they've been coming home strong, but it's MSC Theraton with their 3rd chicken dinner of the tournament so far. They have climbed out from 9th into the top 8. Like I said in that game, though, they're not really in contention for that 1st place. There's only 6 games to go. They've left their run a little bit too late. MSC Theraton, for those who maybe weren't aware, they really, really struggled in that 1st weekend. They were down the bottom. They were with the likes of Cerberus, and we were talking about how, once again, it's another PCS where MSC really didn't live up to expectations, but at the very least, they've had some good PUBG towards the back end of this season.
Yeah, they have, and I think for a lot of teams coming out into this tournament, a lot of people would be like, our goal, if we're not doing well, not doing extremely well, is to come out and get some wins, because wins good, look nice, they feel good, everything about them. MSC haven't been able to really convert much else other than their wins into points, but Victim Rise has been a team who has come back from, I think they were potentially like bottom 3 after the 1st week or something like that, and they have brought back points, and they're now looking extremely strong. So, hats to Victors.
They're currently sitting in 4th place now. Victim Rise, 135 points. They've bumped Bay down to 130 points. Bay struggling heavily in that last game, only the 2 kills after starting the night okay, 6th place and 7 kills in their first game, just struggling in that second one. And really, it has been the case though that while there hasn't been a singular team below Divine that has gone on and had like a massive night, I would say all 5 of those teams, Miramar, Fury, VTR, Division X, and Bay, have been able to accomplish something, whether it's a couple of points or a large amount of points. Say Miramar and Fury's sake, I mean, Miramar have cut this lead down to 14. It's almost like nothing. With 6 games to go, 14 is severely manageable. And then, of course, then for Fury, it's only 20 points now, which is ridiculously close for a team like Fury, who we know, of course, can go. And really, not just for Fury, but for any of these teams, from Miramar down to Bay, can all get 20-point games. It's just a matter of that combination happening in the game. Everything has to go right for it to happen, but we know they're capable of it. So the overall story here is Divine have got to pick things up. 4 games in a row, they've been very poor.
Yeah, it's looking very, very scary for Divine now. I definitely don't want to be in their shoes. The stress would be definitely piling on now, not just from your team, but from everything outside to letting down fans and letting down your organization. So there's going to be a lot of factors that go into Divine's performance right now, and I'm just hoping for their sake that they can switch it back on, turn their mental around, and get back into it.
Yushiminburi with the top damage in that particular game as we go and have a look at the highlights for match number 2 tonight. Our final game of Miramar in the books. Loki's, of course, remember, he unfortunately got swatted very early on by Valix, and Bay just really weren't able to recover from that point onwards. And, well, Divine, I called it with that circle shift as well. They had probably the hardest route in, and it showed.
Yeah, the route was definitely difficult, and not being able to pick up any kills has really sort of hindered them in the long term. So I'm just really hoping that Erangel is a better map for a lot of these teams here right now, especially with our Miramar and Fury. Like previously, that Erangel has maybe not been their most favorable, but they can still dominate on it.
That's true, but in saying that, you know, Divine, if we look at the majority of PCS2 APAC, Miramar tends to be their map more so than Erangel. So they themselves will have to flip the switch going into Erangel now for Divine, where, you know, they've been struggling on Miramar, a map that they had been doing so well on for the majority of the tournament. Now they need to try and hope that they're going to turn things around for Erangel.
Yeah, that switch is definitely going to need to be flicked right about now if they want to have some good games, because especially ending out your day 5, you want to have a good Erangel. You want to take it into day 6. You want to start strong. You want to have a little bit of confidence, because if you have 2 more bad games, I'd say it's all over for you.
I don't know, I'd say it's all over. Of course, if Divine were to have 2 more bad games, I still think that there's a chance for them to be able to come back, say, tomorrow night, right? This is the thing. Even if Divine sort of lose that top spot by the end of the night, it's not like they're going to be very far away from being able to reclaim it. So I think for Divine's sake, it's just a matter of finish tonight strong, and then just hope that tomorrow night, you know, the likes of Miramar and Fury start to falter a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to need everyone else to sort of collapse around you if you really want to carry away this lead, because right now you're just not cutting it.
I definitely agree with that. The last 4 games, and I keep harping on about it, but it's now 4 games in a row. It's going to be 5th game coming up on Erangel. Is that going to be another one that we can add to the tally of bad string of games for Divine, or do they finally flip it? Because we know that when Divine have a good game, it's usually a really good game. Like, we're talking 10 plus points here. Their average games are like 5, 6. So they've been having 4 bad games in a row. That's not like Divine at all. And you just wonder, is it finally going to turn for them? And if it does, then for the likes of Bay and potentially Miramar and Fury, who probably could have got more points overall in the last couple of games, do they then just feel like they've let their chances slip? We'll have to see. Of course, 2 more games to be played tonight. We're going to Erangel after the break. Two games remaining here for day 5 of PCS2 APAC. We're heading to Erangel to see whether or not Divine can hold on to this top spot, which has become a talking point. 4 games in a row, Edge. They have gained only 6 points. This gap is just down to 14. It's like it doesn't even exist. And with 6 games to play overall for tonight and tomorrow night, that's a lot of time for Biram to catch up, which means it's time for Divine to just come back into the fray, fire their own shot, get a couple of, 10 points or so, just get back on the board and say, bugger off, this is ours, we deserve it. But if they don't do that now, I'm afraid I'm going to have to count them out for tomorrow night. They got 2 games to prove themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, it should be any point now, right? Where Divine can come back into it and start giving us some games like they'd shown previously. Surely it doesn't keep extending itself and the point gap keep getting closer. But from what we've seen so far, this could be the end of the era, the end of basically all of our storylines, which have been Divine holding a huge lead, and then slowly the storyline turning into Divine losing a huge lead. So it's definitely getting to that point.
This is what I want to bring your attention to, though, is that for Erangel, I said in the before we went to the break that Erangel hasn't been as kind for Divine compared to their Miramar play. Well, they're 9.5 points per map on Erangel. Remembering, though, of course, at one point on Miramar, it was something like 14 points per Miramar. So I think a couple of like last weekend onwards, you could have said that. Maybe now it's like pretty even, but we haven't seen them play on Erangel during this sort of woes, right? Like they've just been very poor these last couple of games. We have now go to see, does that remain to be the same here on Erangel? Or potentially, Edge, do they find their footing here? Bring it back to a map that for many teams still is sort of like their home map.
Yeah, and what we see for that as well is the likes of Fury, a team who on their Miramar was around that 9-10 point mark for their averages, and then Erangel, they're down to 5. So, Fury, one of our top contenders, if they want to stick it to Divine, they need to pick up their Erangel and have some good games. So they haven't got their military island circle yet, but this circle does seem to favor the way that it is over to the west end of their bridge.
Bay's another team that what feels like just up and down. It probably sums up their season for PCS2 APAC. More ups than downs, to be fair, which is why they're on the higher end of the leaderboard. But it just feels like the potential. Like I look at Bay and I just think that at times throughout this season, they should have been, in contention to win it all. They kind of still are. 30 points, 6 games, not impossible, but well, I mean, we need to probably at this point, Edge, see that, that win 17 kill game from Bay that we saw earlier on. I think it was maybe the first weekend. That needs to kind of come out again. Wasn't it like picked up 40 points in 2 games on Erangel? So that goes to show the power of Bay and what they can accomplish in, relatively quick manner. Victim Rise, though, they've lived up to their name, rising up the standings. Then, well, they're in contention to win it all now, but an absolute shock. Now, you said that they at one point were bottom 3. I don't know if they ever got that low, but they were certainly middle of the pack for a lot of this season, and only just really the end of last weekend and now this weekend have climbed into the echelon of the standings. 135 points, 5 behind Fury, 11 behind Biram, and 25 points behind first place Divine. So I mean, they've got every chance. They've got to give themselves every chance. And I'd say right now, down to Bay and up, everyone there should basically be backing themselves in with 6 games to go that they can win this, which I love the fact that 6 games to go. We've still got 6 teams that can all win it. Now, admittedly, 2 of those teams are unlikely compared to the top 4, but there's still a chance.
Yeah, there is definitely still a chance. And for the likes of Bay, we've seen the big games before. Division X Gaming had multiple wins as well. VTR, they've been on a real big grind to bring themselves back up into this. So, it's definitely possible. I'm not sure of how much of an impact they can make here. They're going to have to put themselves in really good positions these next 2 Erangel games, I believe, to keep themselves in that top 6. I don't know if they'll get overtaken by MSC. MSC's been a little bit too inconsistent for my liking, but I'm really loving the fact that we've got a top 6 that is so close. and that really, yeah, realistically can still win. It just makes the PUBG a little bit more exciting. Not exciting when you have all your coupons on the line and you want those lovely skins that PUBG has brought out, but you just got to be loving some quality PUBG out here.
It's an interesting word you mentioned there, consistency, which sort of just looking at the way that 2020 is shaped up so far, but and we'll probably get the final answer in PCS3, but I'd probably say Fury and Buriram are the two most consistent teams in APAC so far over 2020, and yet neither of them have actually gone on and won a tournament at the PUBG Continental Series level. Day trade. Doran's just going to allow Fury to go close by. Now, it's a bit risky to take those shots, especially at the end of that. Probably just expected them to keep on keeping on, but such is Fury needing to sort of hunt down and find kills. They see an easy one. They see the seat swap from Ronan, Insight from behind. I'm not sure if Insight got out or if that was the seat swap, but still style points for Fury gained. They get a point, and every point certainly matters. Turtle, though, and Divine, of course, not going to see the remonstration, though, from the future. They'll just keep driving by. Turtle doesn't find a knockdown, though, doesn't find a kill. All eyes will be definitely on Divine this game. They've got a decent position, and certainly not like our last game on Miramar, where they came into a very troubled circle for them. This one, they should be able to play a little bit better here.
Yeah, Divine's got themselves into a nice for the circle currently. They can rotate depending on what the circle does do, and they're not sort of locked into having to rotate through multiple teams like we've seen on their previous Miramar games where they've just been called out time after time. So it's looking a lot brighter for Divine for now, but depending on what this circle does, it could still lead into some devastating events.
Bay on the move, just north of the Yellows. Buriram going to be coming in the latest, in fact, though, from Milta. What does that say about Buriram, considering they are a team that likes to play on the circle? But for this sort of Gatka Fields position, coming in late can be not always the best play. A lot of open areas, and typically you can be seen. Is this fine, though, because Buriram like this play style of coming in and sitting on the edge?
I think so. I think Buriram has the potential here to backfill a lot of teams. So once a team leaves an area, they can come in and take that and slowly shift themselves in. They do have a lot of hillsides to play off, as we see Bay taking a fight against Serb hillside here as Haisaki gets the opening knockout onto Flood, and Haisaki getting the second one onto Loki's, being 17 HP and being able to pick up 2 there, and still the 4th player in Nefahor. Nowhere to be seen right now from Bay, so it's all left up to Sophia, who does get that knockout onto Zigul. Gets the flush as well. Will get taken out by Haisaki, so Neff needs to come in clutch right now. Neff is doing a little bit of a seat swap right now. I'm not sure what he's doing, going for a run over potentially, but he will get taken out by Haisaki as well. So 4 kills quickly on the board for Cerberus, and that is Bay, our 5th place contender, just out of the game that soon.
2 games in a row as well for Bay, and they're just letting their chances slip now. I don't sense Divine's just going to keep giving them opportunities. That 29-point gap could balloon back out for them. Bass will pick up the elimination onto GenForce, but I just feel nothing but disappointment right now for Bay. Really feels like, well, it's not even a feels like, it's coming into tonight, just like the teams around them. They had every possibility of catching up to Divine, and they're just really wait. And now they've got, what, 5 games remaining, 29-point gap as it stands, and that can change for the worse. You just kind of, I don't want to count them out entirely, but they're probably at like a 1% chance now.
Yeah, but realistically for Bay, this is their first big, as a team, big international event where they've got a lot of competition that they'd be used to. And I feel like the position they're in currently is something they're going to be happy with. They probably didn't come in expecting to win. They know they've got potential, but you know, anywhere around that top 6 is a good result for Bay in my eyes.
I agree 100%. I think for them, top 5, top 6, good result. Top 3 still on the cards, though. Just typically, you'd think that first is probably out of reach. Can prove us wrong, though, with 5 games to go. We'll see. As Kaiser Tuna. Are you going to find one here onto the slow moving? This is the replay. Yeah, that's
a cool
unlucky
shot.
I like that one. It's just unlucky, though, because there's just... Why would you be thinking someone's there? So Botbass picked up that one for Kaiser Tuna. That's up north for this now phase 2 circle, which is certainly kind for Divine Esports. MSC Theraton controlling Everest. Buriram going to be coming in very late. Pachinki Hillside, so not really close to Divine. Division X around George Paul, same with VTR. Just looking at the map, for me, this is shaping up to be Divine's game to capitalize, to really punish these teams below them for not having big games. This could turn into like a 15-plus game for Divine. Just the way it looks right now. They got a nice 2-2 split around Ruins. Literally no one around them. And if it keeps feeding them, I can't see anyone else winning it. But if it does move towards the more centralized Gatka fields around Magic Esports, around Chopsticks, well, then it's game back on.
Absolutely, and these are the games that Divine's really thrived in. You know, they've got that little bit of space, a little bit of freedom, and they can just pick up kills everywhere. A lot of their other wins that they've had so far, they've been kind of gifted that central zone where they can just sit there and farm kills. So, you know, this could be the turnaround for Divine, but we do still have our 3 contenders close behind in Buriram, Fury, and VTR. So, you know, if Divine make one misstep, that could be all it for their lead at the moment.
Beaton Rise are going to have to play with 3 players here this game. Match 3 of day 5. So there's one more game to be played after this. And we get near the very, very busy end. 4 games tomorrow will then be the final 4. Running out of games to potentially chase down this lead. And really going into tomorrow night, you know, for the sake of Buriram and Fury, you really want this gap to be closer than it even is now. You kind of either want to lead against Divine or you want to be within single digits.
Yeah, that's right. And as close as you can get is the best possible result. But yeah, if you can get it within single digits, that's where Divine starts to get pressured the most. I do expect that they're under a lot of pressure right now, but once the closer it gets, the harder it gets for Divine to realistically keep putting numbers on the board. They don't have that same freedom that they did previously, and they've got to play a more conservatively and safe to make sure that they're putting themselves in positions to convert games and get kills.
Well, a bit of a nothing phase there for phase 2. Let's see what phase 3 is going to bring us here. Does it go south onto Chopsticks? No, it does not. Central, and actually still has a bit of water in play just north of Ruins. So, well, Divine have got a great circle here. I would imagine Levi's Diane will group up with J-End and Turtle. They'll take that position. They should then be in the phase 4 circle too. But you can see the lack of teams around them just kind of says to me, are they going to be able to find many kills here in this game? That's the question. Not only that, but then is the team going to breach them is the second question. If a team does breach them, the third question it is who wins that fight. So long way to go here. Cow just moving in to the compound that is inside of this phase 3 circle. God Meow on the move. And right now, this is just sort of one of the games where for Buriram United, the circle just keeps moving away from you. You're constantly playing edge. You're constantly backfilling. And you've just completely thrown away your UAZ. High Saki gets swatted by a day trade sitting inside of that single building. And they get breached by a ghost.
And this is a really strong circle for Divine, but you have your Fury and your Buriram on the edge. There's a lot of teams. There's not much area for you to pick up. So this could be another game where potentially Divine can just blow out their lead again. It's definitely on the cards at the moment, as we see Buriram getting themselves into a fight with Cerberus. Cerberus, who had previously taken out Bay very early. So Buriram going to be trying to put the pressure on, pick up some kills, close that gap, and then keep their edge play as they very much like to do.
Buriram on the move. They're going to get moving now. Minute 20 seconds till phase 4. The north side, though, Division X will be able to come in relatively comfortably. VTR and MSC Theraton will battle it out on Everest. What's the plan now for BRM though? Breach onto Magic Esports. Breach into Chopsticks could actually still be a very viable play. They could try and rotate around the south side of Chopsticks and actually go towards Fury's compound too if they really want to. There's a couple of options still, but such is the nature of Ganker Fields. When you're rotating in late, like BRM's about to, you're going to take a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of eyes on you, and the success rate is really low. As we watch over them now, sort of in this helicopter view. Now, they do have Chopsticks that they can divert into. It is inside of the circle, but they're going to go even further. But the problem is now it's like, okay, now what? You're obviously, oh no. Canaxi and God Meow flip the darts here right outside Astra's compound. Canaxi's already taken down a half health, and Nordra's just blown up inside the top end of Chopsticks to knock Tan. Edie's still up. But this is disastrous for BRM United. They've just capitulated. And they're about to lose all their players. They're gone. Second last place. And Divine Esports get the reprieve that they've always so required over the last couple of games. Not only do they get a reprieve, but can they get the circle for phase 4? We expect it to shift away from the water. Oh my days. They've been hard fed. Not only that, but the team below them on the standings just went up in smoke. And the other team that's below the team that went up in smoke is the furthest away on the map from the circle. This is just Divine's fortunes turning around all in one game.
This is going to be extremely difficult for teams like Fury and realistically anyone who's not in the circle currently. There's nothing to play, and you've got so many teams around you. So many teams are currently secured in their compounds with realistically no threats. So it's going to be very, very difficult for you to do anything right now, but Fury is making that play to the central side of the circle, and it looks like they might be heading straight for Divine here.
Well, this could change fortunes very quickly. I mean, I've just been sitting here praising Divine's chances, although Ronan diverts at the last second. Turtle with a nade was expecting a breach to happen here. So what's the plan, though, for Fury? Just sort of hold outside the compound. They're not getting shot at from here, so they must feel like they're safe, but you can't surely think that's a viable location for the remainder of this game, right?
You do. If you're Fury, they have a lot of tree cover towards the southern compounds, so Astra and Magic Esports aren't able to see you at this point, but if teams like Game Home push out of their compound, they can definitely get some angles onto Fury. So realistically now Fury just wants to wait this circle out, try and just stay alive for now, and then once the circle potentially pulls off away from the southern teams, they have a lot more freedom going forward.
Oh, Fergus with the spray. Not successful though. And Kamals is able to just keep on moving by closer into Ruins. Ruins is still in, by the way. Could very well be a last-ditch effort for some teams that need somewhere to go. Fergus was always going to win that one against Samoy. And Division X on the board this game for match 3. But Divine still haven't actually picked up any points here as MSC Theratom just pushing it. Just explosions left, right, and center right now this game. Kaiser tune up. Style G's low. Bot Bass is already knocked down, but they've been successful so far. Nice little transfer from Musate. Gets the knockdown on Dianku 2 off, and there's only one left up somewhere for MSC Theraton. It's actually Yoshi Mimburi coming down Everest. Got 10 and X Stadium getting involved here too, here in the commotion between Kaiser Tuna, MSC Theraton, Musate though with a knockdown onto Noctan, who does get knocked immediately. The refrag, Hongbu, he's gone though, but so now is Nessa. Bot Bass and Style G up for Kaiser Tuna. Goodbye to X Stadium. And Kaiser Tuna have just picked up like 6 kills in 30 seconds.
It's definitely a good result for Kaiser Tuna being able to hold off all of those pushes into their compound. And Yoshimin Buri being the only man left surviving from either of those teams, as he was the overlook from the top of Everest. He was able to survive, but he has been spotted out by Kaiser Tuna now, it seems. And this is what I say, the circle, once it does change up, Fury should be able to get a lot more freedom, and that will absolutely do it. Fury dead center. That forces out Astra, that forces out from the future, and this gives a field that has realistically no playing area just as dead zone, so Fury can just control the entire south side potentially. So this has worked out very favorably for Fury right now.
There's still every chance that Divine gets breached at some point here in the double whites. MSC is gone, by the way. Yoshi Mbiri, who was still the solo coming down from Everest, is finally gone, finally out. Phase 5, still 10 teams in this. Still alive at this point. 19.5 minutes for match 3. You've still got Fury, VTR, Division X, all still hot on the heels of Divine. Of course, Buriram's not going to gain anything more on this. A 14-point lead turned into a 13-point lead, but of course, Divine's still in this. Divine's still yet to find a point in this game, though. So it hasn't been sort of the bloodbath for them that they would have liked, but they are going to get placement points. It's just a matter of how many. And right now, I think for Divine, considering their last couple of games, even a 5-6 point game, they will take it just to relieve some of that pressure that is slowly building on them. But this is a huge opportunity for Fury, playing just a little bit below them to find some kills on the likes of either Astra, Day Trade, or Game Home, or potentially Astra's going to run straight in to Day Trade here. Fury watching, can they find any kills? Cow with the knockdown onto Lynxy. And Lynxy's just going to hide behind that tree, try and stay alive, but he just ended up running straight into the sightlines of Insight. 2 kills now for Fury. And this is something Divine's not going to be able to do, Edge, from their position.
No, that's right. Divine's compound, while it is being fed, it is incredibly hard to pick up kills around. You have no sightlines on anything else happening, but you do get placement points. And potentially late game, if you can move out of your compound, you can pick up late game kills as well. So that's what they'll be hoping for here. And Fury will just be trying to mop up every leftover on the side of the zone right now.
Another one.
As Cow will steal that one on Extreme. So 2 left up for Astra now, Nikos and Zoid. Zoid getting revived as we speak. We do have a little bit of a tussle between VTR and DXG right now. They're trying to control zone. Camel's out of the blue zone right now, and it will look like Chibrit will be left alive at the moment.
Oh, Nikos just picked up a double kill and he just wiped out Day Trade Gaming. Kamal's, though, will get the knockdown onto Nile.
I believe that was a triple.
Yeah, but it might have been actually, yeah, you're right, from the beginning of that fight to the very end of it. And that was with Fury stealing 2 kills as well on top of Astra. So they had it from both sides, and still they've got 2 players up, Zoidmate and Niku. So Astra do well to come out of that one. We are into the final 8 teams, though, so placement points now going to be distributed, which is why Divine are on 161. And for phase 6, they're still in, but Fury's probably got the best position out of everyone in this game. They've got the kills as well. I think right now for Divine, it's just a matter of just they're probably only going to get placement points, and it's then can they get kills at the back end of this game? So say, for instance, you know, second place, get your 6 placement points and get 4 kills. That's 10 points overall. That's a pretty good game.
Yeah, but the problem here for Divine is that you're going to have the likes of Game Home and Fury, everyone trying to hold you out of your compound. You've only got flat ground with no real cover, so it's extremely easy for other teams to keep you out, and you can't really do much about it. So it's going to be rough for Divine here. They've just got to try and pick up whatever they can before they need to leave things.
Oh, Ronan, just a cheeky headshot and just letting the boys from Astra know they're still being watched. That's 2 kills potentially for Fury eventually. Although Astra don't have to move just yet. They're still inside of the phase 6 circle. Is this a chance for Divine to start finding kills? They've got 1. Can they find more? Division X close by. Game Home as well. Fury still just holding what's going to be the east side of this circle. But Bass and Musate deeply entrenched into the phase 6 circle now as well. A lot of smoke being utilized. Divine can't see a thing anymore outside of their buildings.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. The sightlines for Diane now really aren't that good. There is a couple of shots coming out onto the Division X players, but you've got so many trees and so much different cover that blocks your distance sightlines. Teams really have to come within like 150 meters to even be spotted right here. And it just looks like the Division X player Long K will just deny himself in the play zone, try and deny any more points coming in for the teams. Fury will be picking up those kills onto Game Home now, though. So 2 players left for Game Home, and a lot of work for Fury to do here to just hold everyone out of their position.
Well, Zoid, though, from the hay bale with a knockdown onto Cow. Not sure as he got the sight lines to get the quick flush. We haven't seen him go yet. Now he does. Zoid will take out Cow. If there's any questions about Fury and Astra, they definitely want to see each other fail, that's for sure. Jukesy gets God news. 6 kills now for Fury. Well, they've certainly got the kills this game, and they have now jumped up into second place. They give themselves all the chance, but they're going to take on Divine now, who are finally coming out of their building, but they've just lost Insight. Insight actually just got a knock onto one of the members of Astra, but this is the problem. Because of Astra's inconvenience, Fury is not at full strength for this fight against Divine.
Yeah, and this is Divine's perfect timing to start pushing out of the compound. Fury's just finished their fight. They had one player knocked, so Divine really needs to capitalize here because Fury realistically is the biggest threat holding them out of the circle right now. So Divine doing everything they can to make it out. No real other team here is a threat for them at the moment, but they do have the 2 Fury players left, and they really don't want to see the Fury players alive right now.
Yeah, it's down to Ronan and Jukesy for Fury. You've still got 2 players up for Division X Gaming up north as well, but they're in the fight against Kaiser Tuna. Musate knocked down onto Neil, so Paolo now he's going to go for the hill first, but that blue zone's pushing close, so Neil's not going to be able to get revived. Division X down to 1, so Paolo just gets him with UAZ. I'm not sure how much longer he can really survive here. Division X out in 5th place. Jukesy just goes down to the blue, potentially denying points to Divine, but Divine are going to win this game. It's a certainty. They're going to pick up the chicken dinner. Not a high kill performance edge, but still, considering their last 4 games, they're going to at least walk away with a win and a couple of kills. And I think for everyone who's voted with their pick'ems, can breathe a sigh of relief here. This is going to be a big win for them to just release that pressure valve.
It definitely does release a bit of the pressure, especially after having so many rough games in a row. Divine would be having a big sigh of relief right now, but it's still not over for them yet. I think they really need to capitalize and try and pick up the rest of the kills in this lobby to sort of to get themselves that little bit of confidence back that they're still the leaders and they want to stay the leaders.
Well, 4 versus 2, Bot Bass, Musate, the last 2 alive to try and give Divine a run for the money, but it's very, very unlikely from this position. Well, what does that do for things going into the next game? It means that the gap against Buram is going to be quite a lot bigger than, say, 14 points, back into the 20s, maybe even into the 30s as well, Edge. Like, this is what I've been trying to say. How quickly things can turn. I mean, it's only 3 kills, potentially 5 kills, and a lot of it comes down to if Kaiser Tuna just want to sort of die to the blue here. There's no reason for Kaiser Tuna to die to the blue. Of course, they're not in contention against Divine, so you may as well fight it out and see if you can increase your own placing. But it's still, what, 15 points gained in one game or 13 points gained in one game, depending on what happens here. It's still big. And of course, with Buram capitulating very early on in this game, Fury did well. And VTR, Division X, and Bay all stumbling. To me, it's down to 3 teams that can win PCS2 APAC.
It is definitely looking that way. We've got Division X who's dropped for as well. Bay's obviously dropped off. So it's not really looking like any other team other than Divine, Fury, or Buram's gonna pull through here. But I'm still open to any sort of surprises in the end.
We're going to play this one right to the end. Diane just catches Musate on the right side. Botfast runs out of the smoke, dies immediately, and it is going to be that 5-kill win for Divine Esports. 15 points gained, and that's what it feels like, right? Just that breath, sigh of relief for Divine. It's not a humongous win. It's not a game changer by any means. We've still got 5 games to play overall for PCS2 APAC. And it's hard to get too excited considering they got completely hard fed the entire game from start to finish, which is why they had such a low kill margin. But who cares? You take it, Edge. And we've said that for a lot of different winners, chicken dinner winners throughout the tournament so far, especially the last games that Divine have had. They needed their fortunes to change, and it did.
Yeah, and that's right. And for Divine, like every team knows, getting hard fed is easy, but converting the feed to a win is that. And Divine's definitely shown time and time again that they can convert those hard feeds to a win.
Fury, I thought, played that really well. Start to finish, it was just unfortunate for them that the fight that they got into, you get third-partied by Astra, and then when you eventually get the fight that they were probably anticipating against Divine for so long, they were completely on demand. They weren't at full strength. Big win for Divine, but it's actually Kaiser Tuna who walk away with the most points from that game in particular. Astra not far behind. For Fury's sake, though, Edge, they lose 5 points to Divine on the total leaderboard. So for them, it's not so bad. They're not going to be too disappointed. Obviously, they would have preferred Divine getting nothing, but it's not like a big game changer for them. On the other side of the coin, though, for Miramar United, well, that 14-point gap is now going to be a 28-point gap. Like, how quickly that just doubled up for them. Bay also only 1 point gained there. As we look at the total leaderboard, it's shaping up to be Divine's game again, still to lose, or their tournament to lose. Fury hot on their heels, 25-point gap. And of course, for Biram, 28-point gap. From there, it gets almost back to 40 to Victim Rise, and Division X and Bay, 44 points and 40 points respectively. So how quickly things can just change from what looked like the divine throw for PCS2 APAC. They are once again the rightful leaders, with Fury and Biram the closest to them.
Yeah, that's right. It's a definite yo-yo at the moment, as we see Divine going up and like a yo-yo, but all the credit to the teams around them, to the Furies, to the Burams. They're fighting incredibly hard to try and get themselves into that first position. Even at the 50-60 point mark that Divine had, they weren't stopping. They were still trying to get back up. No talent. They know they've got the potential. They just want that win so badly.
Let's have a look at the match highlights for match 3 of day 5. It was the turnaround that Divine desperately needed. Of course, they won't be part of these highlight packages until the very end of the game. They didn't have to do too much, but it was the start of the game where, again, Battle Arena Elites just really struggling so far tonight. They had a decent game 1, but games 2 and 3 leaving a lot to be desired. Edie and Biram, well, we all know what happens very, very soon for them. They got blown up with chopsticks and picked up 1 point in that game. MSC Theraton, Kaiser Tuna, and another team as well following shortly after that, which was X Stadium, if I remember correctly, pushing in and having a 3-way fight. Victim Rise unable to back up their last couple of games that they've had tonight. They went out pretty early in Division X, didn't gain much from it either. So the perfect storm for Divine from this one, Edge. They had the teams below them all basically have a shocking game, except for Fury, and they themselves went on and got a 5-kill win.
Yeah, and even still, it is definitely anyone's game still. Fury with those 25 points to catch up. They haven't had their win yet. I'd like them to get a win by the end of the tournament. That'd definitely put them up there. But, you know, they're playing incredibly well. Their averages are extremely high, and they've got a lot of firing power. So I think, all in all, if they can continue with the consistency and Divine maybe slips up a little bit again, you know, it's still in it for anyone.
Exactly right. Well, we've got one more game to go tonight. It will be Erangel once again. Will Divine Esports continue to show that they're back, or is there a chance that maybe going into tomorrow night, we've got ourselves a new contender? One more game to go tonight here for PCS2 APAC, which will then mean only 4 games to go tomorrow night. We're down to the final 5 games. And speaking of 5, fresh off their win for Divine Esports, Edge, can you believe it? That's their 5th chicken dinner of the tournament right now. They have been the team to beat all tournament. And of course, so far over the course of tonight, they've proven that there's a bunch of teams right below them that want to get close, and all it takes is that one game, and that gap balloons right back out again.
That's definitely right, and Divine hogging the chicken dinner, really not that fair. So hopefully we can see a bit more variety on those chicken dinners for this last game. You know, potentially a team who hasn't won before, but that'll be up to that team whether they can pull through and bring it home.
Exactly right. I mean, you keep bringing up the fact that Fury haven't picked up a win at all yet they're sitting in second place, which is really commendable, I guess, overall, when you haven't even picked up a win and you are only 25 points behind a team that's found 5 wins, right? So it goes to show their consistency, but it's now time to sort of break through that consistency, stop finishing 3rd and 4th, stop finding 3rd, 4th with 5-6 kills. Like, you've got to now go and get like a proper 10 kill win. And if they can do that and then Divine have another poor game, suddenly you're looking at single digits going into the final 4 games, and it's really up to Fury to see whether or not they can continue to storm home with a finish. They're going to have to start that now, though, of course. Final game coming up. Is this lead going to once again balloon out to something in the 30s or potentially 40s, or will it shrink one final time to set us up for a very climactic final night?
Yeah, it is easier said than done converting those wins. We've said about Divine's wins that they have been able to convert them, and you know, those big feeds, got to convert them into big wins, and Divine's definitely done that. So now it's the time for teams like Fury, a team who hasn't got that win yet, to really step up and convert it. So I'm looking forward to this last game of the night. I hope we get a much closer scoreboard for the last game. So going into our next week, it's going to be left all to the last 4 games.
Final game of the night, of course, on Erangel on Miramar. Things were not kind for Divine Esports, and well, it's been topsy-turvy. It's been a lot better for them on Erangel now, apparently averaging 10 points per map on Erangel. Bay in second place, still only there because of their first 2 games on Erangel where they picked up 40 points. Yeah, look, I don't think you can honestly say Bay actually averages 9 points per map on Erangel. I would actually be more intrigued, Edge, if you took out their first 2 games on Erangel, what their points per map would be.
I think for Bay's Erangel, they have been a lot more consistent than their Miramar. They did start to have some good games on Miramar, but they just need to work on their overall consistency as a team. I feel like they are still reasonably new, being only Neff and Loki's the 2 players for the original Bay. So, you know, they've still got time. They can fix up these mistakes, and hopefully they do that, and they can come back and be like an extremely strong team.
Let's have a look at our circle for the final game of the night, or not. Apparently, we won't. Never mind. Let's look at the Divine Esports instead. Back in top. Well, I don't, 175 points. They have a pretty decent lead once again. Look, it got down to what, 14 and 16 points respectively, the second and third, and now it's ballooned out to 25 and 28 points, just like that. Of course, they can obviously. Oh, hey, the military circle for the first time since what, Charity Showdown or something.
Yeah, I believe so, and this will be Fury wanting to convert to a win. They've got their military island that they've been almost begging for.
They've been begging for it, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is Fury's game to lose right now.
This is the first military circle we've had for PCS APAC since Charity Showdown. We didn't get one at all for PCS1. We haven't had one for PCS2. It's hard to believe that, isn't it, really? As I'm saying it, I'm still not really believing it. But as you said, Fury have been very vocal about the fact that they haven't had a military circle. They're going to get one now. 150 points, 25 points behind first place. Look, they've been really good. And their damage numbers speak for themselves. It's just being able to convert damage to kills is like the last step in their evolution right now to being what could be eventually one day the best team in APAC.
That's definitely right. And it just goes to show that they've got the 50 points only from Erangel right now and 100 on Miramar. They haven't really got that favorable circle that for Erangel that sort of puts them in a strong position. But this could be the game changer. This could be the one that skyrockets their Erangel overall average.
Just wonderful. Buriram United from that mill to power section, if they're going to be able to get a boat comfortably and head over towards Novo. Looking at Divine's position just to the west of Prison, they're going to have to go through that Milterside bridge, which has got Bay, VTR. You just wonder if they're going to get sort of not necessarily bridge camped, but teams rotating through there sometimes like to stop and smell the roses around the area, and Divine could potentially go at the wrong time, could get sideswiped by a couple of teams like VTR, like Bay, for instance. But if they make their way early and the likes of Bay and VTR cross the bridge, find a spot on the island, then Divine should be fine to go through.
And that's the biggest problem with Military Island in competitive is you never know if a team's going to commit to a camp or put themselves in position. So you can never be safe or never be sure of your rotates in. You don't know whether to risk it for a boat. Boats are extremely easy to blow up. So you've got a lot of variables that come into account, and I'm not sure of how Divine's going to play this, but they're going to have to play it very cautiously if they don't want to blow out their last game.
How does Fury play this game, though, Edge? Obviously, they kind of get the pick of the litter, right? On Sosnovka Island, do they play Radio Tower, or is that just too early for play for Phase 1? But right now, looking at the map, they're actually heading towards Novo, which I find to be strange, unless they want to try and just get an easy kill on an unsuspecting team like Buriram.
Yeah, so what Fury will do on their military islands, early first circle, before most teams have crossed in, they'll generally put themselves on the edge of the coast and try and go for those boat camps, because the boats are extremely easy to blow up and generally have 4 players in the boat. That's almost confirming yourself a free 4 kills if you can set off that 5-second blow up timer.
Style points for Nordrop. Well, you're saying about Fury looking out for teams in boats. Buriram are going to be heading straight for Novo. Like I said, from mill to power, they got themselves a boat. So this could be horrible for Buriram United. They could just get completely whitewashed by Fury here. They will end the night on 147 points if that's the case. Now, of course, Buriram, though, to their credit, are playing this well. They're not going like very direct, like a beeline straight for Novo. They're instead kind of going on an edge towards it, right? And that means that if Fury starts shooting, Buriram just have to keep rotating away from Novo. I think they've actually played this really well, and it's a good lesson to not just sort of get too, trigger finger in terms of just beelining straight for Novo.
Yeah, but here's the problem for Buriram. Fury are prepared, and they've got on their vehicles, and they're going to the next stop destination. So for Buriram trying to get in here, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Hunting them down.
Yep, Fury are hunting those potential free kills, so it's going to be rough, and I'm not sure. I hate taking boats. Boats is always a last option.
I think they're turning around. I think Buriram are turning around. You can see now they've done a 180. They're going back. They've actually spotted Fury on the coastline, literally chasing them down. How much fuel is in that boat, though, of course, is actually massive to know, because if they haven't got much, they're going to have to make a quick decision. Fury themselves are going to obviously start coming back around towards Novo. They've just completely gate-kept Buriram out from Sosnovka Island.
Yeah, and Buriram's timing might work out here. They might be able to dock at land and be safe in Novo. So big props to whoever was scouting for Buriram and spotting out a Fury player on the coastline and making that call to double back. So this is actually pretty big, and this might not work out in Fury's favor here if Buriram catches them with their pants down.
Well, 100%. I mean, I think this is already a win, right? If this is kind of like a war right now, they've won the first battle. They've gotten onto the land. No one's even fired a shot, which is already a win for Buriram United. Now it just kind of feels like your standard MM game over at Novo. And that's not really the situation you want to be in if you're Fury. They're taking big chances here. Just because you know a team is here doesn't necessarily mean you go and push into this crate section and try and take these fights. It's like a maze in there. And before you know it, you could lose someone like Cow and Ronan, who were close by into that situation. Instead, they've now also not really got a massively favored position for this circle. And this is probably a win right now for Buriram. Of course, things could change, but I think they're pretty happy. Divine, though, haven't made the decision to go across over to Sosnovka Island just yet. Although I've got the bridge on the north side. Bay sitting at Crossroads just south of that. So when eventually Divine do make their way in, I think they'll be a pretty easy target.
Yeah, that's right. Bay's got the nice sort of split set up to prepare for the bridge camp right here, but Divine's playing it smart. They're waiting for the zone to push off, potentially come in on the blue. So, you know, your bridge campers will have hopefully centralized and got themselves a better position. And especially with that circle, Bay's going to want to move, so this leaves a big opening for Divine to come in now. Yep.
All right, hang on. Everyone settle down. Where's Paper Thin? Where is he? He's in there somewhere. That is a paper thin circle. What in all good gracious is that? There's more water than land in that circle edge. That is horrible. That is one of the worst circles I've ever seen. And yet somehow this works out for Fury.
Yeah.
This works out for Fury. What is that?
Yeah, their coastal camping has apparently worked out in their favor. So I'd almost say, what have we got about here? Like 30-40% land in the zone?
Yeah, it's got to be like a 30-70 split, surely. That is horrible. And this just changes this game now dramatically. Divine have got to get moving very, very quickly, get inside of this circle. I mean, seriously. Astra, I don't know if this is the best position to start swimming.
I believe Astra's got a boat here, but just if you look at your map stream, if anyone has the map stream open, take a look at MSC, take a look at Division X Gaming, Archangel Predator. They're all still very deep in the blue zone right now, so they're going to be coming in with a big disadvantage in a zone that's already extremely hard to get into.
Kaiser Tuna going to make their way in. There's the boat, though, of course, from Buriram. It's like an ancient remnant from the past of when things are no longer normal. Well, Fury's got a great position. Bay have made their way over to Radio Tower, which, I mean, considering the circle that we've got, that's fine. I mean, how much further can it really move away from a position like Radio Tower? I don't necessarily think it's going to move that much further in the water. I mean, I say that, but who knows? I mean, looking at the way the circle is now, Phase 3 doesn't necessarily have to do anything at all.
No, Phase 3 can shrink deeper into the water, that's for sure.
Exactly. Astro have made their way into Novo. Division X Gaming just made their way in from Lighthouse Bridge. They've still got Archangel Predator actually closer towards Pachinki. So I was just looking at which teams haven't made it over to Sosnovka Island yet. I believe Archangel Predator is the last one, as From the Future versus Buriram United just on the edge of Novo. Canaxi and Gold Meow getting that knockdown onto Auckland, which, by the way, 11.5 minutes. This will be our first death of the game in favor of Buriram United. So they've tied up the points that they got from the last game.
That's actually very surprising that on a military island circle, we haven't lost anyone until, the 11-minute mark. Generally, you'd have successful bridge camps, you'd have boat camps, everything, and you'd probably be down to maybe around like 50, 55 players by now. So extremely low kills as teams are really trying to stay alive right now.
I think teams are trying to stay alive at all times, Edge. That's usually the goal. 23 seconds till phase 3. But look, definitely trying to stay alive in unusual circumstances. That's 15 seconds to go. Most teams just wanting to hold edge, see what this sort of circle does now for phase 3, especially with what we've had thus far. It's really hard to predict where this is going to go. Do we go inland towards Radio Tower? As Nordra's going to get the knockdown onto Busate, we do not go inland. We stay with the majority being in the water. Cerberus, Fury going to get the hard feeds here. There's not a lot of room to maneuver for phase 3 at all. So many teams are going to need to get in there. Edie with a knockdown onto Neza as well. So Buriram at least getting some knocks and potentially might find some kills over towards Novo. Smokes are up there looking for the revives though, but not going to get anything. Nordra's just going to quickly clean up. There's the double. There's the last one found as well. Kaiser Jr. taken out in last place, and Buriram United get some very valuable kills to get them back up into second place, overtaking Fury.
A much different game there for Kaiser Jr. Their previous game finishing on like 12, 13 kills, and then being the first team out now. So it just goes to show that at the turn of the hat, everything can change, and PUBG is not very friendly to any particular team, as we see Divine being on the far edge of the zone right now and not having very much space to move in. So we're going to have so many teams die on this zone as we're just left with nothing to play.
100%. Zoid, though, just catches Canaxi off guard as Astra have been lingering around Novo for quite a while, just snaking their way through the docks. Minute and 40 seconds till phase 4, which, I mean, how much can phase 4 really do to bring back normality to this game? It can only do so much. You have to think there's still going to be water in for this next circle as Divine drive by. Levi's went first. Sophia's close by, now spraying with the M416. Headshots him as he goes by. Battle Arena Elites are needing this. Now they've got information on Divine as well. Sophia gets one. Are there any more from the future close by? Diane just does a skid and continues on like nothing happened. Insight close for Fury. And they'd be hearing these shots as well and hearing the vehicles drive by. Turtle, Diane not getting shot at, but Diane cops one to the back, down to half health. Extreme dying in the kill feed to Nordra and Edie for Buriram. And yet they find yet another kill. Lead back to 22. It's 6 early kills for Buriram United.
Yeah, Buriram's starting off very strong here. They need to take this fight against Astra as well, because they well know that moving into this next circle isn't going to be easy at all. So they need to try and get as many kills as possible before they start to make their journey. And if one person, 2 people survives, they'd probably be happy with that result. And that is it for Astra, as Buriram will finish them off. 7 kills on the board. They do still have 2 people knocked out at the moment, but they really don't have anywhere to go.
There's firefights everywhere right now. You can see it in the kill feed. Insight got one with the Turtle, so Divine faltering here. Just like many teams, though, to be fair, they're not the only ones. This is a very unkind circle for everyone not named Fury and not named Cerberus. Phase 4 will do what it can in the next 3 seconds. And for Divine, they are down to 2 players. Still a bit of water in, of course, those cliffs as well for Cerberus. But Division X, Fury, Bay, all well placed. So is Divine, but they're down to 2. MSC Theratol just eliminated by Magic Esports. We're down to 13 teams, 39 alive, 15.5 minutes into the final game of the night. Nordra, just a quick flick behind him onto Defiant. Knows there's another one at the tree right in front of him inside of the blue. The last one alive for Buriram United. Not going to get placement points, but at least 8 kills gained. And they are going to walk away with a decent amount of points. But still, they are also going to walk out with no placement points. 12th place, they're gone. Insight, knocked down onto Diane. It's only JN that remains for Divine Esports. There is a smoke up, but it's dissipating. There's another one up in front of Diane as he starts to go for the crawl. But JN is just going to run away. Not even going to bother. 0 points gained for Divine Esports so far in the final game of the night.
Yeah, and Divine running away here. They're just going to start running into more and more players. So I'm not sure how long he can keep running here, but Fury is hunting the remaining player right now. And just 4 or 5 minutes ago, we were still at 64 players. So these zones definitely haven't been friendly to the teams who were stuck on the edge.
JN gets behind the rock, and from that sort of position, Cerberus is south of him, but not really going to be in the sight lines, so should be safe at that rock for Divine, unless Fury just continue to rotate up right on top of JN. And we switch our attentions over to the Northwest, Victim Rise and Battle Arena Elites. Of course, Bay were over at the radio tower. They've made their way down from the tower. Relatively intact. They've still got 3 players up, which I think that's a success. Usually coming down the radio tower can be quite difficult. Usually a lot of eyes on your location as you make your way down, but fortunately with this kind of circle, everyone's just been fighting everyone. 3 kills for Bay as they look to try and finish off the night in style.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of chaos throughout these games. And Bay has pretty much put their foot in a lot of it, but they haven't really got the kills to show for it right now. They are on the edge here, so they can pick up a lot of these struggling teams, trying to come into the zone now. And Loki's spotting out VTR down the bottom of his hill. We've still got a long way for the teams like VTR, Game Home, and Magic Gaming to really put themselves in positions that they can play off for the rest of the zones here.
Fury on the move. I don't want to put the Mozzie on them and say this is their game to win, but it's certainly one of the better placed games for them when there's only 9 teams remaining, 22 alive. And I know it's early days here. We've still got 40 seconds till phase 5. But there are so many wounded players and teams remaining. In saying that, I mean, well, no, not even saying that. It's Fury and Cerberus are the only 2 teams with 4 players up right now. And Cerberus playing from the Cliffs position and Fury from the north side position means they're not really going to interact with each other either. Big opportunity for Fury here.
The big difference between the likes of Cerberus and Fury at the moment is Fury are actively playing for map control. They're trying to clear as much of the zone as possible so they can just know that their backs is clear, know that everywhere that they're potentially moving is clear, whereas Cerberus has been holding their compound for the main part. They are starting to spread out now and trying to get some more zone control. But Fury's doing a lot of work right now, and this could be really strong for them at the moment because when they come into this zone, they know majority of their back's clear. They do still have Nando behind them, but you know they can play this side of the hill and just start picking up kills with no real threats from behind.
It's very easy right now as well for Fury to lose a player to someone like JN. Yes, it'll give JN's position away. They'll collapse on him. They'll eliminate him, but then you've got to play as 3 for the remainder of the game. So it does feel like JN is kind of like this last hurdle for Fury. If they can have 4 up by the end of it, Ronan does get Nando down to 7. Divine Esports have at least picked up 1 placement point from this, so it's better than a 0. JN just watching might jump around. The question is, who's going to spot who first? Well, not necessarily. Obviously, JN has already spotted Insight, but the question is who's going to fire at who first? JN's not going to shoot unless he feels like his life is threatened, and if that's the case, then that opens things up for a chance for Insight. Look how low Jukesy is. Just forced to heal. He's fine. Still 4 up for Fury. But if Insight does get tagged here, he's going to go down. He will be eliminated. Doesn't spot him there.
I believe Insight just spotted him.
Okay.
So the longer that JN left that, the worse it becomes. And like that, yeah, he's spotted out by Insight, comm to Jukesy, and they've just teamed up to take him out. So pretty smart there by Insight to back off rather than just taking the straight up aim duel and getting his team to help him out there. It's definitely a big play.
Neferhort takes out Cloris, and Fury have now got a path forward to not only win this game, they can bring this down to single digits if they find the dub. If they find the chicken dinner, it would be their first one for all of PCS2. There's still a lot riding on it, though. You've still got Bay with 3 up, Division X with 3 up, Cerberus with 4 up. It's not going to be an easy run. There goes Game Home, and subsequently right after that, there goes Victim Rise. So down to the final 4 teams, and kind of like I was just saying, those teams I mentioned have all actually got a lot of players. So it's the wounded teams that have been eliminated edge. We're down to the final 4. in phase 5, by the way. Can I just say we're only at the 21-minute mark, but we're down to the final 4, and they've all got 3 or more players left up.
Yeah, it is a very interesting game, especially because had these starting circles that for a start we had 64 players for a very long time, and then all of a sudden it just changed and every team was pushed into each other and it was just absolute mayhem. So now it's started to slow down. We'll probably see a little bit of a pause here now as teams just look for their positions, but that zone's definitely not helping it at all.
That's a good circle for Cerberus.
Very good circle for Cerberus, and Fury should, if they can disengage from this Division X fight, should be able to back down towards the coastline on Waikik.
Duke just gets caught off guard by Fergus, who just comes in like a silent assassin. 2 kills now for Division X Gaming. It does put Fury down to 3 players. And the same predicament as Bay and Division X. This is perfect right now for Cerberus. They've got 4 up and everyone's fighting each other up to the north. The good news, though, for Fury is that, of course, Cerberus is not in contention to them, obviously, in terms of the top 3, top 4 scenario. Bay's on the move, and somehow doesn't get the run over onto Long K, who did get the knockdown onto Loki's. Fortunately, Nefahor in the driver's seat gets out, gets that elimination. So 7 kills now for Battle Arena Elites. Division X, though, trying to help out, but they've already lost Long K. It's down to Fergus, and Neil's now knocked down as well. So it's only Fergus, the solo, who did get Jukesy before. And looking at the minimap, is he going to get inside? No, it's Ghoul. Fergus is right behind inside. I think Fury are going to be down to 2 players. And I think from here, Cerberus are probably going to win the game.
Yeah, it's looking very stacked in favor of Cerberus right now, being the only team in the circle. It is only phase 6, and it's quite interesting that we've only got the 11 players left at the moment. So Fury's still with a lot of work to do if they want to try and pick up some more kills here. They do get that knockout onto Basil. Ghoul will get his flush onto inside. Ronan gets one onto Subang. So it's all left up to Ronan now as Waikik is taken down by the grenade from Ghoul.
That's an extra kill gain from 5 to 6. It's something. Ronan needs to stay alive. Get this heal off. Bay up to the north now actually could find a win here because Cerberus have gone in. They've lost a few players. They're wounded. They can come in and pinch from behind. This is good news for Bay. They've still got 3 up. They can try and get better position inside the circle, but Ronan's dead to rights here. He's not getting away from that tree, and especially with the blue as well. Bay even shooting at Ronan as Ghoul gets that elimination. Fury go out in 3rd. It's going to be a 15-point margin between Fury and Divine for the final 4 games tomorrow night. Still no chicken dinner for Fury, but a massive opportunity for Bay to keep their hopes alive, Edge. If they can win this game, finish off the 3 players of Cerberus, that's like what? They get another 7 points or so.
Yeah, and so for Bay here, they've actually taken advantage of Cerberus's fight and taken their really strong position. So Cerberus, who we thought was in an almost unthrowable spot, has now been put to a potentially not as strong spot. So it is still a 3v3. So potentially either team can win. Bay has split themselves up quite an amount. Flood is that center point of the zone, and Nefahor and Loki still need to make that move. So Cerberus and Bay need to figure out who's taking this one home.
Definitely more on the line for Battle Arena Elites, of course. Flood with the knockdown onto Haisaki. It's not just for first place as well, but also if they want to try and displace either Buriram or Fury for 2nd and 3rd, so keeps them in that race. It also then can give them a bit of separation to Victim Rise and Division X Gaming.
Yeah, it's been just when you think Bay's out of it. Yeah, just when you think Bay's out of it, they always come back and they throw that big game in just into the mix to make sure you're not counting them out for now.
Nade going to be thrown over from Nefahor, but it just bounces away from Haisaki. Still using those smokes for a bit of cover. Flood needs to reload that SLR. Does so now. Another nade going to be thrown from Nefahor. This one going to be much better placed and does land damage onto Haisaki, who's already gone for that first aid kit. Bay not rushing this, though. It is a 3v3, but they've got Cerberus surrounded. Cerberus in the horrible position. Backs up against the blue. It's just a matter of time. As long as Bay don't make a mistake, they win these 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, for Cerberus to pull this win out of a hat, they really need to get an opener onto probably Neff here so they can push uphill and take the fight against Flood. other than that, I really don't see too much hope. Like, they can't push downhill because Loki's has got that on lock. Loki's is under a little bit of pressure, but just look at the sight lines he's got. As soon as Cerberus tries to move, he can just watch everything. So it makes it extremely difficult for Cerberus to even try and push on towards Flood at all.
Best opportunity right now for Cerberus, find a knock onto either Flood or Neferhort, push on that, and take out the second one. If you get a knock onto Loki's, I mean, it opens things up on the left side, but obviously then you've still got to deal with Flood and Neferhort. Yeah, they're making a bit of headway, though, to their credit. Although Loki's finally gets the knock on the Haisaki, which, I mean, nice second one from Loki's in quick succession, and yeah, that'll do it now. Ghoul was able to definitely get a more centralized position, could technically get him behind Flood now, and as he does hear him running, coming in for the flush, but it's a matter of time. Bay's going to pick up the win. Ghoul gets Flood, but has to reload, and obviously it's not going to survive as soon as they push over the hill. 11-kill win for Bay to close out day number 1 of the final weekend, or day 5 overall. Big performance, and just when things looked like they were down and out potentially, they're right back in the race with 4 games to go.
Yeah, Bay always having a couple of average to rough games and then just bringing it back with that win, getting all their points back. So big props to the boys from Bay of never sort of giving up and just always pushing forwards. It's a big sign of things to come, and you know, with a little bit more consistency throughout the team, I think that they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
They were 6th place coming into the final game of the night. They jump up to, what is, I believe, 3rd. I'm not sure if they did enough to overtake Miramar just yet. Could be, potentially. We'll see the total leaderboard, of course, before we close off the night. But fabulous performance from Bay on Sosnovka Island. Of course, a lot of the talk was about Fury that game and how they've been calling out and crying out for a Millie Circle. They finally got one. Maybe not to the degree that they would have expected. They still at least got 11 points from that game. It didn't totally throw it. Not only that, but of course, Divine only picked up 1 point. So that really was not necessarily the perfect storm, but it was pretty damn close. And of course, a 15-point gap with 4 games to go, really not that much for them. They'll be feeling confident going into tomorrow night.
Yeah, and just look at Buram. They left the game very, very early, but they picked up 8 kills. So that's enough for them to sort of stay up there and keep it in it. They won't. Bay weren't able to catch up off that game just because of Buram's 8 kills very early on.
Cerberus Esports, much better performance from them, and maybe just sort of showing us signs of what could have been for them this season of PCS. It hasn't to be, though. Buram, 8 kills early on. They did go out, and I believe around 12th position. Unfortunately, they got into those fights early on, but then as you do, if you get into those fights early on, you tend to die early on. 21-point gap then for Buram to Divine, and then a 24-point gap for now Bay to Divine. Outside of that, you're looking at 35 plus. So with 4 games to go, I'm down to Fury, Buram, and Bay as the teams challenging Divine. 0 wins though. Look at everyone on the left-hand side of the scoreboard has got more than 2 wins, 2 or more edge, and Fury's on 0. Everyone from 9 to 16 on 0. Can you believe it? That right now is probably just the difference maker between Fury and Divine swapping positions. If Fury get a couple of wins instead of 2nds or 3rds or 4ths, maybe they're in 1st. So 4 games to go. They've still got time to go and find that elusive chicken dinner. Let's look at the match highlights, though, from what was a very exciting final game of the night, courtesy of our wonderful Circle friend. Of course, Astra catching Canaxi off guard. That led to their downfall. But of course, Buram Edge, they did at least pick up 8 kills.
Yeah, that's right. Buram did a lot of work pulling in at that Novo area. It was looking like imminent death for them as Fury was trying to camp them on the coastline, but they outplayed Fury and they actually got into Novo. So from what could have been a very rough game for Buram, they definitely brought it back and got themselves some points in a very dire situation.
Bay in some fights as well throughout the middle of this, and had to come down from Radio Tower. They were amongst it, and they managed to just keep persevering and surviving and getting right to the end, and thoroughly deserved the win here. One of their better played performances, even I think outside of their, of course, 2 games on Erangel on the opening day where they picked up 40 points in 2 games. this just seemed like a more complete performance for your sort of quote average game, I guess, right? Where you're not just completely dominating the way they did, like a 17 kill win. That was a really, really well fought game from them. Net for Hall Loki's carrying the damage. Edie with almost 500 damage in like the first 12 minutes of the game as well. It goes to show how much Buriram were in fights early on, and going back as well all the way to that first circle pop Edge. The Buriram Fury exchange on the coastline was also quite comical to sort of round out what was a very good game.
Yeah, and Bay really had to just fight for every position they were given. They did take the radio tower early, but as soon as the radio tower was out, they just kept themselves on the edge. They kept fighting teams. They were picking up kills here and there. They weren't able to get every single kill on the edge, but there was just so much chaos that it's just really hard for any team to keep up.
Was the damage for day 5 overall, from what I can gather. Zoidmate clocking in 1,500 damage. Well, I'll round it up for him. Incredible for a guy who basically barely plays PUBG nowadays, Edge.
Yeah, I don't know if the WoW trainings sort of paid off.
Yeah, but lately he's been the third imposter among us. Victim Rise, of course, they had a really massive days. Gemforce, Chibarit, Claw is up there for Game Home. A bit of a surprise, to be honest, and Edie for Buriram. And something we spoke about in the pre-show for Buriram is that they're a team of 4, and today was sort of like Edie's day for them. Other days it's Nordra, for instance. So, well, what a day. It's set us up for what should be a grandstand finish tomorrow night. Of course, North America's finished, Asia's finished, and it's just down to APAC and EU. We're down to 4 games too, Edge, as well. And, well, 15 points is now the target for Fury. Can they do it?
I mean, I think they need to pull that win out of their hat, out of their bag of arsenal. But, you know, from something that was looking so stacked in Divine's favor, it is just absolutely anyone's game right now. And, I mean, this is as good as it gets. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's games. I know that they're just going to be absolutely mayhem again.
Well, it feels like this has basically been the closest finish we've had in APAC for 2020. Tomorrow night, 4 games remaining. Do Divine hold on, and do they please all their hundreds of thousands of Pick'em fans, or do Fury come in and get this elusive win and potentially just a chicken dinner at all? Tomorrow night, 4 games to go. Come back. You don't want to miss it.